Good evening.
Away, Sharon.
It's 6 p.m., January 24th, 24, and I'd like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for this evening. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being televised live on local cable channel 8. If we could all rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next. Does anyone have a public comment regarding anything not related to any agenda items tonight? If so, please check in with Mary Ann to my left, and you can have 3 minutes to make your comment. Anybody in the audience have any of that? No one has? Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask for the public comment on each hearing to be held at the end of the presentation. I will, at each presentation, ask for public comment. If for some reason I forget, please feel free to raise your hand and say you forgot, but I hope I won't. Generally speaking, I don't. Okay, so on the first new hearing, I guess it'll be 5 members. We're all set, right? 5 regulars. Exactly. That's great. So the 4 regular meeting members, 5 members. I know I made the mistake last week too. The 5 full-time members will be sitting on the first petition. That being said, Charlie, would you like to read the first new hearing, please?
Sure thing, Ron. Meeting of Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. New hearing. 84 Uncle Edwards Road. Petitioner, Katuitt Bay Design, LLC, requests a written finding under 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to allow for construction of a proposed deck in an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on property containing 6,500 square feet of land area and 65 feet of frontage located in R3 and the Papaneset Overlay District. Map 117, parcel 209, Mashpee, Mass. Owners of record, Robert Paquette and Marcia Paquette. The existing property has the following pre-existing nonconformities. Front setback and minimum side yard setback from the easterly lot line. The existing front setback is 24 feet, where 25 feet is required, and the existing house is 10.1 feet from the easterly lot line, where 15 feet is required. The alterations proposed will not increase the intensity of those nonconformities. The lot is currently covered by structures totaling 1,279 square feet, equaling 19.67 lot coverage. The applicant proposes an addition and deck that will increase the overall lot coverage by structures to 20.66%, increasing by 64 square feet. The increase in lot coverage remains under the 25% requirement. The board will determine if the proposed additions are substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Charlie. All right. So I'd like to state your name and your involvement in the project, please.
Good evening, everybody. Steve Cook from Katuitt Bay Design. I'm project designer representing Bob and Marcia Paquette, who are behind me. So this is a small ranch house. We're proposing to remodel the house. As you can see on the site plan, we're going to do a little infill addition on the south side of the property where there's an existing deck, and then we're going to expand the deck across the back just over to, as you see on the plans, past the bulkhead that is there now. So that brings it up, the increase to 20.66%. As part of the project where this is a crawl space underneath the house, we're going to lift the house and put a full basement underneath with living space down there. And the reason that I'm in front of the board is because the building commissioner referred it because of the foundation is within the 15-foot side setback where it's 10.1 feet to the east lot line. So the footprint of the house isn't changing, location isn't changing. We're just going to put a full basement underneath versus a crawl space. That's the only change. Other than that, everything else, meets the requirements except, the existing front setback's 24 feet. With that, I'll
Okay.
take any questions.
Charlie, could you, I'd like to just read some comments.
Yeah, the two that I'm aware of is Board of Health and Conservation. Board of Health comment, no increase in flow to remain 3 bedrooms. Don't put deck footings on septic pipe. And the Conservation Department comments received January 23rd, 2024, no wetlands jurisdiction. I don't have anything else.
I do not believe Evan made any comments, so.
There are none from Evan.
So there are no other comments, whether it be letters, et cetera?
Nothing.
Okay, board questions, please.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Mr. Morris, do you have any questions?
Well, I thought there was, there's 2 more bedrooms being added in the basement, am I correct?
There is, right now, there's 3 bedrooms on the first floor.
Okay,
So it's going to go to 1 bedroom on the first floor and 2 bedrooms in the basement with egress window wells.
so you're gonna eliminate 2 bedrooms upstairs?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a new
Alright,
floor
so,
plan for the first floor. There's a new revised first floor
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, do you
All
want
right,
to
all
see a
right,
copy?
I knew there was bedrooms going in downstairs.
Yeah.
As far as, this is building code, information, this is more than 100% increase. So you're gonna have to bring it up to, today's standard codes for the energy code, which is a HERS rating of 52, which is quite attainable at this time. So, I mean, you're just gonna have to jump through additional hoops, as far as the building code is concerned, because it's more than 100% addition. That's about it.
Okay, great. Audience input. Anybody in the audience like to speak?
One more thing, some neighbor did write a letter, I think, to Mary Ann, or had a
Well,
concern about
that should have been read into the record.
the egress window. I mean, that's exempt from setback, so. that's
Where,
okay.
where is that letter? That concerns me.
I didn't see
Red
any.
letter, or they call
It was an email, but we took care of it.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be part of the record? Okay, all right.
All right,
Just
does
want to make
Dave,
sure.
does Dave need any conditions on this? On the approval, do you need any condition to comply with
No,
it?
it's just, it's a written finding for 17417.
Okay.
Okay. As long as it's got 3 bedrooms only, right?
As long, yeah, he's got to remain 3 bedrooms.
Limited
per-
to 3
per Board
bedrooms.
of Health.
Any more comments or questions from the board?
Using dry wells, I assume? Did I see that? Proposed dry well?
I couldn't remember.
Yes, there are dry wells on the plan. If you look
Yep.
on the driveway side, there's one there.
I saw that. Any others going in?
Which is picking up the roof drain. So I would presume, so that's a good question, Jonathan. So if you've got one dry wall, Steve, in the back right corner, how are you gonna pick up, I would presume it's a regular A slope roof?
Yeah.
Gonna be awful
Correct, yeah.
hard to bring that,
But the house is existing. You're not adding anything to that side of the house. The only side of the house
No.
you're adding on to is where the drywall's going.
Correct.
So you're not doing it, you're not
So that's
increasing.
exempt?
I would assume, I don't know. You're not, why would he have to update all his drywells to do an addition on the left side of the
well, I guess my question is, he's adding them that's not existing.
No,
So
they're
he's
adding
putting a
one on the
drywall in for the roof drains, because it says RD.
Yeah, but.
But how, so how's it, my only
Mark's
question is, how's he gonna get the roof to the drain to that when it's pitched, when you get one down here? You're gonna put a gutter across the
You're
gable
gonna have to
end?
go underground and,
Yeah, so they're both gonna go down, but he's showing just a pipe to that one corner.
yeah, but you asking why isn't there drywells on the other side of the
No,
house?
no, no, I'm saying that if you have an A roof, and
Yeah.
you've got a catch basin here, or a manhole here, and it's showing, you know, the pipe going to the back corner only, it's getting me a little picky. I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah,
Probably should have drawn another line, so I point to the front corner. I'm
Right,
not
the-
worried about
The
it.
way I understand it was because that was just the addition, BSS design, just put the drywall based on the new addition.
I see.
You know,
I
so
get you. So it's going to the corner of the addition, which is actually the corner of the house, but it's more because it's a new addition, and you're picking up the roof line of the
So that
addition.
gutter line's going to travel.
I'm fine with it. I'm not
That's the way I looked at it too.
I'm fine with it. All right, so that being said, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
All those in favor? Can I get a motion to approve the project, please?
Yep. A motion relative to 84 Uncle Edwards Road. Petitioner Katuitt Bay Design LLC requests a written finding under 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to allow for construction of a proposed deck and an addition on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on property containing 6,500 square feet of land area and 65 feet of frontage located in R3 and the Papaneset Overlay District, map 117, parcel 209, Mashpee, Mass. Owners of record Robert Paquette and Marcia Paquette with the following conditions. Number one, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a written finding under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 6. 2, site plan, proposed additions and renovations at 84 Uncle Edwards Road prepared for Robert and Marcia Paquette, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, date November 15th, 2023, drawn by EJP, checked by TB, prepared by BSS Design, and stamped and signed by Thomas J. Bunker, registered land surveyor, number 32653. Number 3, rebuilt house for Paquette residence, 84 Uncle Edwards Road, prepared by Katuitt Bay Design, LLC, scale 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, date 8/29/23. First floor plan, A1, A2 basement plan, A3 left front, rear, and right elevation, A4 foundation plan, A5 roof framing plan stamped and signed by Eric Setterholm, registered structural engineer, date 8/29/2023. Conditioned on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Board of Health and Conservation Department's structure to remain 3-bedroom. Any changes to the plans will require the applicant to return to this board. The board finds that the proposed project is not substantially more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to either the town or the neighborhood.
I have 2 quick questions, real quick, just for the record. None of the lots in floodplain?
No, conservation said not wetlands jurisdiction.
And you're not creating any new nonconformities?
Correct.
Nope. Perfect. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you. Nice to see you, everybody.
Same here.
All right.
I didn't last time I was down. Ringing. I didn't play it indoor.
Okay. Charlie, would you please read the first continued?
First continued hearing for this date, excuse me, is 33 Sunset Circle. Owners Kevin and Suzanne C. Mulgrew, trustees of the 33 Sunset Circle Realty Trust, request a written finding under 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to allow for reconstruction and extension of an existing deck to a pre-existing non-conforming structure on property located in an R5 zoning district, map 64, parcel 28, Mashpee, Mass., continued from December 13th, 2023, and January 10th, 2024 hearings at the request of the board.
So the 5 regular board members will be sitting, and George, I'll have you, when it's time, to read the next one so that you get more involved. Sorry about that. Sir, if you'd like to submit, give your name, please, and your involvement in the project.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Alex Lebedev. I'm a general contractor and I represent the homeowner for 33 Sunset Circle. So I've been here twice already, and we had an issue with the plot plan, which we got changed, and at the last meeting, the only concern that you had was Evans notes, which I submitted probably a week ago, and he reviewed all the plot plan, the new one, and he stated that he don't have any issues with that.
Okay. So specifically, can you bring this board up to speed as to the only issue was the designation of the plot plan, what, floodplain or lot coverage?
Yes, it was a lot coverage, so we recalculated the existing lot and then recalculated the proposed without BVW. Yeah, BVW.
Okay. Charlie, could you read into the minutes any?
Yeah, three comments. First is the Board of Health comment relative to 33 Sunset Circle. No habitable space, no comment. Second is the Conservation Department comments for 33 Sunset Circle with the date of January 23, 2024. This project was issued an order of conditions by the Conservation Commission. They approved this project as they felt it met the performance standards of the applicable wetland resource areas on site, including inland bank resource area and bordering vegetated wetland. The mitigation proposed compensatory plantings will provide an enhanced naturally vegetated buffer area to the pond. And there's a comment from Evan, dated January 18th, 2024, to Mary Ann Romero. This revision satisfies my concern. The plan accurately reflects the lot's area as required by the zoning bylaw. This revision shows the total amount of bordering vegetated wetland in the subject parcel totaling 2,499 square feet. The plan subtracts that area from the total lot area, including upland and wetland. Lot coverage is then accurately calculated in both the existing conditions plan and the proposed improvements. Existing as shown, 2,636 slash 16,141 equals 16.3%. Proposed is shown, 2,834 slash 16,141 equals 17.6%. The math checks out, and we can definitively determine that lot coverage is conforming to the bylaw today and that the improvements do not create a non-conforming condition. I am satisfied and recommend approval. And I believe those are the only three that I have relative to the site.
Thank you, Charlie. Board members, do you have any questions?
No. No, did you read in Evans stuff?
I did.
Just did.
Just did.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay. David, do you have any input in this application?
No, I'm good with them.
Okay. Audience input. Anybody in the audience like to speak about this application? Okay. Again, any board questions? None.
None.
All right. I'd like to get a motion to close public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to get a motion for the
Okay. I
application.
propose a motion relative to 33 Sunset Circle. Owners Kevin and Suzanne C. Mulgrew, trustees of the 33 Sunset Circle Realty Trust, request a written finding under 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to allow for reconstruction and extension of an existing deck to a pre-existing non-conforming structure on property located in an R5 zoning district, map 64, parcel 28, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Number one, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a written finding under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 6. Number two, site plan, proposed and existing conditions. Plan of land for deck reconstruction, 33 Sunset Circle, prepared for Dream Home Improvement LLC, job number 23107, date 07 August 2023, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet. Drawn by RJH, checked by RJH, stamped and signed by Richard J. Hood, professional land surveyor, number 35031, date 1/4/24. Revisions, added setbacks to BVW, record edge of Johns Pond, revised lot coverage calculations, add roof drain. Number 3, building plans, Mulgrew Residence, 33 Sunset Circle, Mashpee, Mass., prepared by Soft Plan Architectural Design Software, scale 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, drawn by DJM, date 10/12/23, page 1 of 2, existing conditions, page 2 of 2, proposed conditions. Number 4, conditioned on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Conservation Department, Board of Health, and Town Planner. Number 5, any changes to the plans will require the applicant to return to this board. Number 6, the board finds that the proposed project is not substantially more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to either the town or the neighborhood.
Thank you, Charlie. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Easy enough. Well, I'm stepping down on the next
Bob is stepping on, who's stepping?
one. On the next one.
Oh, you are stepping.
The two of you.
Well, I'm
step-
stepping on the next one too, but I'm hearing that it's gonna be extended, so,
Right.
but I'm still stepping out with you. You can handle the extension?
I can
Good
handle the
girl.
extension.
There you go.
Maybe he wants to read things into the record.
Doubtful.
Doubtful.
Sharon, I don't have the letter, so if you have the letter requesting the continuance.
I don't think, no, I don't have to let.
So John and I will be stepping down on the next one, and so she'll be acting chair.
Okay.
There's
And so the rest of
here.
everybody is on.
Everybody's on.
Oh, wow,
Ah, okay.
We're on. You're in.
You're not going.
Make us proud of you.
Why?
Extension.
Yeah.
Turn around and come right back.
I was ready
Don't
to
go
walk
far.
in the mud today.
Walk in the mud?
Yep, this is it.
For what?
About this project.
Thank you.
To walk it?
Yeah.
I'm hoping you didn't, if they extended.
Oh, I found out ahead.
Oh, good.
Zoomies. Any random
I wanna know, if I'm in charge, I wanna know what it looks like.
There you go, sounds good to me.
Why are you giving this to me?
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong way.
Rip them off like a flap.
Billy, don't be laughing at me.
You announced at the beginning of the meeting you don't make mistakes.
I didn't say that, did I? Really? No, I make my share. All right, well, so the next one, which is 29 Riverside, I will be stepping down, and I understand Jonathan will be stepping down. So I will take the chairmanship and turn it over to Sharon. Okay.
I'm not sure we have to leave, but
I think you do.
Think, well, I'm gonna, that's up to you, I don't.
I'm with you.
It's not worth the friction. I would rather leave.
Right. George, will you read the next continued hearing?
29 Riverside Road, owners Russell J. and Ann E. Spencer request a special permit under 174-17.1 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and replace it with a new single-family dwelling on property located in R-3 zoning district, map 119, parcel 81, Mashpee, Mass. Continued from December 13th, 2023. Hearings at the request of the attorney.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Christopher Corain, representing the applicants. I will be requesting a continuance of this matter. This matter will be heard before the Conservation Commission on March 6th, I believe? March 7th? So we would ask for a hearing date before this board thereafter, March 13th, or if possible.
What date? What date do we have, Mary Ann?
We have a busy agenda on March 13th, but
Can you go beyond it?
27th?
Is,
March 27th is the
March
next one.
27th.
we're going into 3 months.
And will that violate
the extension rule?
Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
We will?
Yeah.
I want to make sure of that, I think.
I mean, we could put it on for March 13th, and if I need to,
there's no meeting then.
depending on the deadlines.
March 22nd.
March 13th?
March 13th,
Is there a meeting?
Mary Ann,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if that's okay?
Yeah.
And we won't violate anything, right?
No. No, we have a letter.
Not yet.
Not yet, no,
Nope.
we're not ready yet.
Stay out there.
We'll
Stay out
call you.
there.
I just don't want to run into a constructive approval.
No. It's because as long as the board agrees that that's the date of continuance.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Charlie, would you like to make a motion to continue this hearing?
Yeah, relative to 29 Riverside Road, proposed motion to continue the hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals to the date of, we're doing March 13th and then seeing what happens, right? To March 13th of 2024, at the request of the petitioner.
Thank you.
Do I have a
And
second?
in agreement with the board. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Should we leave them out there?
Yeah, kind of nice.
Don't call them back.
You move along.
Okay. All right. So, George, would you read the next continued hearing, which would be 90, please?
90 Papaneset Island Road. Owners Brendan P. Giblin requests a special permit under section 174-17.1 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming residential structure and replace it with a new single-family residential structure with associated pool and detached garage with a guest suite above on property located in R3 zoning district, map 106, parcel 34, Mashpee, Mass. Continued from December 13, 2023 hearings at the request of the attorney.
So the 5 full-time members will be sitting on this. Thank you, George. So the applicant, if you could state your names and your position on the application, please, as to what your job is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, again, for the record, Attorney Christopher Corain, representing the applicant, Brendan Giblin. With me tonight is Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands Engineering, who's the engineer for the project. As noted in the public hearing notice, this is a request for a special permit under 174-17.1 and 174-33 for a raise and replace at the property located at 90 Pompanesett Island Road. This property is located in the R3 zoning district, which requires a minimum lot area of 40,000 square feet and minimum frontage of 150 feet. The lot is non-conforming, although it does have the minimum required frontage. Because it is located wholly within the flood zone, it does not have the requisite minimum lot area as defined by your zoning bylaw. There is 20,221 feet of upland area, but again, for zoning purposes, 0 square feet. The structure itself is non-conforming in only 2 aspects. It is non-conforming as to lot coverage because of the flood zone at 100%, and it is non-conforming as to the setback to wetlands because of the flood zone. So the existing house conforms to your front yard setback, it conforms to your side yard setbacks, and it conforms to your rear yard setbacks. Again, the only 2 nonconformities are lot coverage and setback to wetlands, and only because of the impact of the flood zone on the lot. The proposal is to knock down and rebuild the existing dwelling, add a pool, and add a detached garage with a unit above it. None of these new structures will create any new nonconformities. So this project will be in compliance with your front yard setback, your side yard setback, and your rear yard setbacks. It will continue to be nonconforming as to lot coverage and to the setback to wetlands, again, because it is wholly within the flood zone. There is an IA system on site that is, I think the Board of Health noted, can service the 4 bedrooms. And this project, as you know, may or may not know, has been issued a superseding order of conditions from the Department of Environmental Protection. I think if you read that superseding order of conditions, that says that after a thorough review by the Department of Environmental Protection, they have stated that this is a better project than what exists on site. And that superseding order of conditions controls this project. I don't want to sound adversarial. Conservation Commission has no jurisdiction anymore over this project, and they have no appeals. The appeal periods have run, so they have no right of appeal on this project. They've lost jurisdiction. They have no authority on this project. I would also note, for your structure coverage, is existing is 6.2%, proposed is 15.4%. That is under the 20% maximum lot coverage that's allowed under your bylaw. So again, we see this as an improvement over what is existing. I've provided you, as part of my narrative, 7 immediate area homes that are similar to size and scope to this project. And they are located at 89 Pompanesett Island Road, which is right across the street. 85 Pompanesett Island Road, which is diagonally across the street. 78 Pompanesett Road, which is 2 houses over. 75, which is diagonally across the street. And 98, 104, and 110, which are 1, 2, 3 down the street from this house.
Same side?
Same side of the street. All in similar size and scope.
Same issues?
Yes, they're all located in the flood zone. So given that, given the fact that we are not creating any new nonconformities, the only 2 nonconformities are setback to wetlands and the lot coverage. There's an IA system proposed. This is certainly consistent with other development in the neighborhood. And you have a superseding order of conditions from DEP, which I provided this board, which says, following an in-depth review, the proposed project will result in an improvement over the existing conditions. A non-flood compliant house will be replaced with a new house in accordance with Massachusetts State Building Code standards for flood-resistant construction. And it also talks about the proposed mitigation. There's significant mitigation that's proposed as this. So again, we have a non-building code compliant house, we'll have a building code compliant house. We have a non-flood zone compliant house, we'll have a flood zone compliant house. We are within all the tolerances of projects that this board has approved in the past. And we are not creating any new nonconformities, and there's certainly sufficient parking based on the residential dwelling and the garage. Dry wells are proposed as part of the project, and so with that, we believe, and it's our opinion, that this project is not substantially more detrimental than what currently exists to either the neighborhood and to the neighborhood. So with that, I know Mark is happy to answer any questions about the process through DEP if there's any questions. But again, the DEP superseding order of conditions controls in this project.
Thank you very much. Charlie, would you read into the record any comments to this board, please, including Evans?
Yeah, let me go. First, let me go to the Conservation Commission.
And where you'd like to do it.
I'll give the dates to the extent that I have them. Received January 23rd, 2024. 90 Pompanesett Island Road. This project was denied by the Conservation Commission. See attached denial narrative for details. However, the denial was not issued within the 21 days from the close of the public hearing. Thus, the commission lost standing under Mashpee's Chapter 172 Wetland Bylaw. The applicant appealed the Concom's denial to DEP, requesting a superseding order of conditions. After review of the appeal, DEP issued a superseding order of conditions overturning the Concom's denial and approving the project as DEP felt the proposed project meets all applicable state Wetlands Protection Act standards. DEP has no standards for projects occurring in the 100-year floodplain. Because the proposed project adheres to flood zone compliant building code in Mass, DEP has no issues with expansion of structures in the 100-year floodplain. Concom is currently seeking legal opinion on whether the superseding order of conditions from DEP can be appealed. We are waiting on legal opinion currently. Now, the only thing I've tried to gather some of the information that came in, and Chris referred to the Department of Environmental Protection. Yep. And since it's part of what our record is here, there was a letter from the Department of Environmental Protection to Brendan Giblin, care of Matthew Watsky Esquire, a law firm located in Dedham, Massachusetts, relative to this particular property. It's dated, stamped December 26th, 2023. And it's not terribly long, but I think it's worthy of being all in the record.
That's fine, Charlie. If that's your opinion, read it, please.
All right. Dear Attorney Watsky, following an in-depth review of the above referenced file and in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Department of Environmental Protection has issued the enclosed superseding order of conditions, parentheses SOC, close parens. The enclosed order permits the proposed reconstruction of a single-family house, relocation of a Title V sewage disposal system, construction of a garage, driveway, swimming pool, decks, patios, and other improvements appurtenant to the home located at 90 Papaneset Road. The project falls within land subject to coastal flowage. The property is located in FEMA flood zone VE paren elevation 0.14 and AE paren elevation 0.11 and zone X as shown on the FEMA flood insurance rate map number 25001 CO754J dated July 16th, 2014. Portions of the project also lie within the buffer zones to coastal dune, paren 310 CMR 10.28, coastal bank, paren 310 CMR 10.30, and salt marsh, paren 310 CMR 10.32. The department has determined that the wetland resource areas at the site are significant to the statutory interests of storm damage prevention, flood control, and the protection of marine fisheries, wildlife habitat, and land containing shellfish. The proposed project will result in an improvement over the existing site conditions. A non-flood compliant house will be replaced with a new house in accordance with the Massachusetts State Building Code standards for flood-resistant construction. The proposed mitigation plan referenced in the SOC involves the replacement of existing areas of mulch landscape beds or lawn with native plantings. The mitigation area will provide a contiguous native vegetated buffer to the coastal bank and salt marsh. Approximately 2,800 square feet of new naturalized area would be created and non-native invasive plant species will be managed. Sparsely vegetated areas and areas occupied with non-native invasive plant species within the understory will also be enhanced by managing non-native species and supplemental plantings with native vegetation. In the department's opinion, the project as conditioned herein adequately protects the interests of the Act. Should there be additional proceedings in the matter, the department reserves the right to raise additional issues and present further evidence as may be appropriate. If you have any questions concerning this order, please do not hesitate to contact Greg DeCesare at gregories.decesare@mass.gov. Very truly yours, Misuno Reda, Chief Wetlands Program. Copy to the Mashpee Conservation Commission and to the MIPA office in Cambridge Street in Boston. And I just, what we have as part of our record is there was a review by Evan Lera relative to this that is lengthy, and what I'd like to do is to simply get to the.
I don't believe the synopsis, I don't believe the synopsis is lengthy. Well, it's a little lengthy, but it's not as whole.
No, I'll just get to the synopsis.
Recommendation,
Okay.
yeah. Kind of sums it up.
All right.
I think, Charlie, you can enter the whole thing into the record, but read in the recommendation.
Okay. The recommendation from Evan dated, and I'm not sure when it was, what the specific date of this was, but the recommendation is, I recommend that the board find that the proposed increase in intensity of the existing lot coverage nonconformity and the increase of the site's density would constitute a detriment to the neighborhood by removing flood storage capacity, negatively impacting groundwater and/or surface water quality, negatively impact waterways, potentially pose a threat to public health or safety in a flood event. This does not appear to be a modest increase, but a rather substantial increase in the overall coverage on the lot by structures. In my opinion, the applicant should consider removing the accessory garage with guest suite, pool, and important hardscaping from the proposed. If the applicant is willing to make changes consistent with my recommendations, the board could entertain a continuance and await a plan revision. If the applicant is unwilling to make changes consistent with these recommendations, I recommend a denial. Now, the only other document, and it's a twofold document. One, Cape and Islands Engineering reviewed the material submitted by Evan Lera, and redlined, I suppose that Mark Dibb, the engineer for Cape and Island, went through the information that Evan had set out in his recommendation. And Mark, in red, in the copy that we have as part of our record, went through analyzing that and giving his opinion as to what was or wasn't appropriate relative to the conclusion.
Has everybody in the board read that?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anybody in the audience want us to read that in the record, or we just want to put it in the record?
It's about a 4-page document.
I mean, I'm willing to read into the record if somebody wants it read in the record.
I mean, Mark is here as well. He could certainly summarize his findings. If
Yeah, and I
board
propose
Why
we
don't we
make it.
have Mark?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So wait until the end, though. Why don't you read anything else that's in, and then we'll go to Mark. He can read, he can give his opinions, and
Any other
like that.
But this will be part of the
Yeah,
record.
it definitely has to be part of the record.
Okay. And a Board of Health, relative to Papaneset, 90 Papaneset Island Road. Septic is only designed for 4 bedrooms. Plans show 3 bedrooms in main house, second floor, and 1 bedroom above garage. This is compliant. And I believe that's, those are the documents that.
Nothing from DPW?
Nothing from Catherine Moran, no.
So, Mark, could you read into the record the synopsis of your reply, what was basically outlined in red, please? You don't have to read it word for word, but.
Good evening. Again, Mark Dibb, Cape and Islands Engineering. So, yeah, I'm going to just try to highlight the red sections. I think number one was Evan noting an increase from 1,274 square feet to almost 3,200 square feet, an increase of nearly 2,000 square feet. Yes, it's an increase. As Chris has stated, we're still only at 15%. Most projects that we do and come before this board are get very close to 20% every time. You know, so it's an existing very small structure. And if you even remove the pool, the house itself is only at 13%. He did have a comment about bedrooms. I think that's been straightened out with floor plans and through the Board of Health. So, we'd have no further issue with any comment regarding bedrooms or Board of Health. The comments regarding the floodplain, specifically flood storage and the floodplain's ability to function as it should based on the proposed conditions. One thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, this project also went through MIPA, which is basically every department in Massachusetts got a chance to weigh in and review the project. CZ, Coastal Zone Management, every department. And similar to what we provided to the commission, we provided to MIPA that was also used in
What is that, MIPA?
the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency.
But it did not get scoped, right?
Correct. And ENF was submitted to
Which
MIPA.
I am amazed at.
What do you mean scoped?
So having filed my share of MIPA applications, getting scoped, and all of a sudden you get, so it sends out to the departments and you get local tribe says, you know what, we may have an arrowhead buried out there. We need to do some studies out there. And then as an applicant, you file an ENF and you have to sit there and you have to deal with each individual comment to the degree that satisfies the state. And it's not simply, no, you won't find arrowheads. It's send someone out there, do a dig, do a study. My point is, I've never filed a MIPA.
Who determines whether it gets scoped or not?
State.
And they didn't bother to do it?
They didn't do it.
No.
My point is, have you filed, you file a lot more ENFs
Yes.
and filings than I. Better way to put it. Do you think it's somewhat rare to have a MIPA filing without being scoped? Somewhat rare.
Even on large industrial or commercial warehouses, I've been able to not be scoped. So a single-family house.
Really? I get scoped, I gotta hire you, because I get scoped every.
I mean, a single-family house, I
don't know.
They
must be waiting for me.
But, back to the way the floodplain would function, we provided a flow path analysis that showed the way the floodwaters would enter the site and recede from the site based on both existing proposed conditions. We were given a sample of a 400 unit housing development in Lynn on the coast to model our single-family house development on. And, we showed that the floodwaters would come in the same under proposed conditions and existing conditions. The fact that the lower level of the existing house is built not to code, water is not supposed to get in that house. So by bringing this site to code, flood vents are added to all the structures. There's actually more flood storage on this site. Although we were told by Coastal Zone Management, flood storage in land subject to flooding adjacent to the ocean is not a performance standard or even a requirement in the Wetlands Protection Act. But we can prove, even with that, there's still flood storage. We provided both runoff calculations. It was suggested by Coastal Zone Management, what is the Manning's N of this property? Basically, what that is a roughness coefficient. Pavement is smooth. Gravel's a little rougher. Natural vegetation is even more rough. We provided an average of that, and there's so much mitigation and so much improvement to this property, it became rougher, and the only reason, and that talks about being able to slow down floodwaters and things like that. The only comment that came out through this process was in the superseding order to change, requesting if we could change all the patios and pavers to pervious pavers. And that is the one change. As we resubmitted these plans, you'll see there's notes that the pavers are to be pervious. And ultimately the DEP report agreed with myself, agreed with, if you read the minutes of the conservation hearing, agreed with the agent at that time. He felt it was an improvement for the property. We still feel it's a significant improvement for the property. So all the flood zone related responses in this document, that's our responses. We managed to make the project better while achieving goals of our client. So that's mostly the second. Things like even wildlife habitat are significantly improved by all the buffer zone. The 0 to 50-foot buffer zone is being improved from almost only 40% natural to over 80%. Just across the board, it was significant improvements, as well as the building code issues. I think we've covered, to this point, you might still have some more questions on the conservation-related denial and paperwork associated with that. So just the last 3 bullets, minimum lot area. Again, these are just the 3 things we're non-compliant, but we still feel, definitely within approvable ranges to say this is not detrimental to the project. And lastly, I also had a conclusion, that the applicant has demonstrated that projects, when properly designed, can improve wetland functions while also achieving the goals of the applicant. Denial of the project would actually negatively impact the environment, could impact the users. There's a lower level finished piece of this existing house that a sneaky storm could hurt somebody if it's not up to code. So denial could actually be a lot more negative for this project in the neighborhood, and essentially that's what my response to Evan was.
Well, thank you very much. Board questions?
Yeah, just one quick one. Should that pervious pavers be added as a condition to the motion if we make a motion?
Well, if it's a condition of the, was it did you agree to the ENF or to the superseding DEP order that you would do them?
Yeah, it's already on the plan.
It's already part of the proposal.
It's already part.
So you agreed to that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see it if it was
Yeah,
on
somewhere
there.
else.
I
I'll
commented, I
just
just wanted to make sure.
No, it's already in there.
This one here.
Okay, I think it's a good
Any
idea.
other board questions?
No, and that's part of the plan as
Okay,
well. Okay.
then that,
Jonathan?
I'm comfortable
Yeah,
with
I've
that.
got questions for both conservation and hopefully Mark. I'm really kind of confused on this one. I thought the state and the town worked together for the betterment of the community. The town says, no good. Evan says, no good. Then I read the stuff from the DEP, and it's the exact opposite. How does this happen, number one? And why does it happen? Who's got the final say? Does the state, the town?
What I would
I'm really
recommend we do,
confused on this.
I see that Drew is in the audience, maybe not yet, but I would recommend that we hear Drew and then we hear from the applicant both, and we'll try to figure that out.
I mean,
So,
I can address the last part of that question, which at this stage of the game for this project, the DEP decision controls.
oh, there's no question,
No doubt.
but if I
Why
can.
aren't they on the same page?
They don't agree.
I
So
think
let
that's a
Let me
I
help
have a
some people
personal
out here,
opinion
because
on
I'm on the other side quite often, right? So if I go to a town and I file for an order of conditions, and I get denied or I do not like the conditions, I request the state to do a superseding order of conditions. I file an appeal to the state.
It's an appeal.
And quite often, the state overturns the local municipality. It happens quite often.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying to the extent this took place, it's very rare to see this total reversal, but it happens quite often. And the thing that amazed me, and I think Drew can better expand on that, is, I mean, always there's a site walk or a site, attendance where you can sit down and have a conversation. And I talked to Drew, and again, I don't want to step into Drew's throats, that's why he's here. There wasn't even a site walk for the superseding order. I don't understand that. I mean, I've never requested an appeal of the state and got issued a superseding order without having a site walk. And conservation there, myself there, the state there, it always happens. I've never seen that.
But
Have
it
you
did.
seen it?
But it did.
It happened in this case.
It did.
I get it, but I'm just telling
It
you.
didn't happen with you, doesn't mean it didn't happen.
So it didn't happen with me, anyone I know in the industry, the Conservation Commission I was on for 12 years, all that's never happened.
It happened.
Can I make a comment? Let's assume, is a proper assumption, that that Evan, people in the Conservation Commission, all with adequate background in order to make a determination relative to what's before them, makes whatever determination they made. And then someone is unhappy with what that determination is, and if they have a legal right to do it, they go the next step, an appeal, however you call it. And then it goes to people who we also have to assume have adequate knowledge, adequate background, to make a determination in the same area that was made down below. And then let's assume it comes to a bunch of us sitting here as the Zoning Board of Appeals. Personally, I don't believe we can then look either at the town level or the state level and decide who has the most knowledge, who has the most expertise. I think we have to look at where the buck stops. And I think the buck stops as far as the decision in the state, the EPA. We can't say that the EPA is wrong in what they decided. I don't believe. But I don't.
I gotta tell you, I disagree.
Okay, I don't,
I'll
but
tell you
that's
why
my
I
question.
disagree. We are asked to issue a special permit under raise and replace. And under the raise and replace special permit guidelines, specifically in that, I mean, it's a very long finding that we have to make, or decision we have to make, based on many things. One of which is specifically flooding, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, for myself, I can intelligently or with knowledge make a decision that says the following. This board has had an engineer sit in that seat right there, and I asked the following question. It may not be this application, but I said, if we fill in floodplains, or we do various things with floodplains, will that affect some other piece of property? And that person, it might have been you, Mike, I don't know which one it was, finally, because I've asked it many times, said, you know what, cumulatively, yes, it will negatively impact us. I'm saying, and I haven't heard all the input yet, because I haven't heard Drew's input, I haven't heard the audience's input, and more questions from this board. Somewhere down the road, there will be a price paid. It may not because of this one, because it sounds to me, the engineer has stated that we're actually increasing storm storage capacity on the lot, which is a great thing. I'm liking it, but I can tell you there are some applications for me that I'm a little bit concerned about. But we're on this one, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So far, I'm liking what I hear, but what I can tell you is cumulative over a period of time could impact us negatively.
Yeah.
That being said, anybody else on the board have anything to say?
I'm going to hold back my comments until I hear from
Right.
Drew.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right, so, Mr. Morris, what do you have to say?
Yeah, this is, the project it's a big project. I mean, it's getting close, we get the overhangs and everything. It's very close to the flood zones. You got a V zone and a regular flood zone. So, the foundation especially is going to be under a lot of scrutiny during the permanent process and, of course, during the as-built and all that, more so than regular, because we have a major concern with the FEMA, with the V zone. I want to point out a couple items that I think are incorrect from building code issues. And I wanted to ask about the retaining wall in the front. It starts out at elevation, comes up off the ground at elevation 6.5, and it continues all the way up to elevation 12. Now, how high is that? As it looks, it's all of a foot wide, or probably better than a foot. One place it's like 1'9". Is that for privacy around the pool, or how high off the ground is that going to be?
The wall in this area,
Upstairs,
till
there's
this
no
first part.
division, yeah. there's
Yeah,
no
that
division
is
or height.
just proposed to be like a 30-inch, just decorative.
It's not even
Because
for
that,
privacy
you'll
for a
see
pool,
you'll
right?
see it's like 6.5 on both sides. And then it steps up to, you know, we come up 3 steps. We basically have to get into that flood elevation. You know, we're trying to get into the appropriate elevation. You know, it's no more than 2 feet high because it's stepping as it goes. You know, you'll see further up, the ground on the other side is 12 and the walkway is 10.
So it's not meant for privacy, it's
Correct.
just a decorative
Yep.
wall?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we do have the V-zone, it comes very close to the cantilever. I know you work very hard on these cantilevers. Keep the foundation, again, that's why I think it's gonna be, you know, we gotta make sure that these are installed where they need to be installed. This wood deck here is in the V-zone. With the spiral staircase, that cannot be attached to the house in any way. It has to be self-standing, self-supporting. Otherwise, you're bringing the whole house into the V-zone, which you'll have to raise it up. You don't want to get into that. I looked at the pool equipment, which is in the regular flood zone. It's at elevation 11. That needs to be at the design flood elevation, so that would need to be going up another foot. That needs to be at elevation 12. And then we got the I don't want to call it a garage because it really isn't a garage. It doesn't meet the definition of a garage, but that's in a V zone. So the first floor of the habitable space above is that you get it at 17, but the criteria there would be the lowest horizontal structural member needs to be at elevation 16.
Yep.
So it'd be tough for that elevation to be at 17. Probably could be done if you flush framed all the lowest elevations, but that might have to be raised as well. That's about it, is from what I can see from a building code standpoint. And again, as far as the zoning, you're there, you got as much out of it as you possibly could, and we have to just make sure that it's executed the way it's drawn.
Okay, I'd like to go out to the audience at this time, please. Anyone in the audience like to speak up? Drew, I think you do, I think. I'm guessing.
Thank you. Drew McManus, Conservation Agent, Herring Warden for the town of Mashpee. Jonathan, your comment about why the two Wetland Protection Act regulations and enforcement of it from the state versus the bylaw don't always align. The bylaw, not across the board for all wetlands, but in certain types of wetland resource areas like the flood zone, for instance, coastal bank and inland bank, are afforded a higher level of protection under the bylaw than the state. And currently, I think it was mentioned earlier, the state doesn't have any standards for land subject to coastal storm flow. They're working on them now, several decades later. But as it currently stands, and during this whole appeal, there are no standards at the state level for land subject to coastal storm flow. So I don't disagree with, I iterated in my comments that we lost standing under the bylaw. We didn't get out our order of conditions, our local order of conditions, within 21 days of the close of the public hearing. The hearing was closed, and then it was continued for continued deliberations and a vote 2 weeks later, and we were under the misunderstanding that that was going to start the 21-day clock, the actual decision. But the 21-day clock starts when you close the public hearing. So that was the reason why we did not get the orders out on time. Lesson learned, won't happen again. So that's...
One question before I forget. Is the 21-day clock the reason why the state approved it?
No. I can't really say it's the reason why they approved it. I can only say that our standards under the bylaw, which are part of our order of conditions that we issue, you know, for all projects under a notice of intent, are stricter than the state, so they don't have to pay attention to those standards. They can choose to take them into consideration if they wish, but more often than not, DEP will go with what's written under their regs, not the town bylaws regs. They can take it into consideration. They didn't do that. In this case, they typically don't do it, and that's why you see a lot of overturned orders of conditions and issued superseding orders from DEP, because when, let's just say hypothetically, had gotten the bylaw orders of conditions out within 21 days, the applicant could appeal to DEP, but they would also have to appeal the bylaw decision, and they would have to go to a state appeals court to do that. So it's a whole nother level of appeal had we gotten the orders out within 21 days.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that was where my next question was. If you had appealed on time, then
DEP
they
still
would
could
have to do what?
So DEP could still overturn the commission, but that doesn't obviate, that doesn't dismiss the bylaw if we had gotten it out on time. So the next step in the appeal process, you have 10 days to appeal a state to DEP over an order of conditions. You have 60 days from the date of issuance, or the date of the close of the public hearing, I think, or issuance, I'm pretty sure, to appeal the bylaw decision. It's much harder to appeal a bylaw order of conditions than it is to appeal a state, under the state.
So just so this board understands, and for clarity, if the Conservation Commission would have denied under the Conservation Act and the bylaw, the applicant then would have had a right to appeal to DEP under their rules and regulations, which they probably would have come up with the same decision, but the bylaw would have had to gone to a court where a judge would have looked at this, probably hired a professional to look at it, and they would have been scrutinized under the bylaws rules and regulations, which are higher than the state's, which possibly would have put the applicant in a position where they had to go back to conservation and work through this scenario, because the denial would have been, may have been upheld, because it was being overseen by the Conservation Commission's rules and regulations, which are higher than the state's. So because of that 12-day, because of that lapse, that's what put the town/conservation in jeopardy, in that it is now being overseen only at a lower threshold. But I say that this board has a higher threshold, which is in our special permit for regulations and overseeing.
So just to add, sorry, did you have any questions on that?
No, I'm just trying to process.
It's always a dual permitting process.
I don't understand much of what you guys do.
I'll gladly come back before you all to give you kind of a synopsis on how things work under the Wetlands Protection Act, because I know it's a lot of moving parts, and it's, it can be difficult to grasp the whole process, which is complicated, especially when you're dealing with a bylaw and state regulations. So every permit that we review is reviewed under both simultaneously. It's a concurrent process.
Drew, is this similar to if we make an error here and let something go beyond a certain time frame, constructive approval? Is that similar?
Yeah, I would think so.
It would be very similar, other than in this case, we only have that.
Whatever the time frame is, I'm just asking.
So if we don't meet that time frame, Marion doesn't get the
60 days,
decision,
right?
whatever it is, then that applicant gets an approval, then we would have to appeal it to a court, right? To say, we want to appeal that decision, right? In his case, there's a double appeal process. If in fact the order was issued in time, that would be to DEP and the state, but that was removed when he did not meet the bylaws, didn't meet the state statute's requirement of sending the notice to the applicant.
Within 21 days of the close of the public hearing. Yeah.
Right.
Chris has got something to say.
I mostly agree with everything that's been said as far as the processes go. I want to caution this board on the use of the term constructive approval, because that is not what the law requires under an under conservation. It is not a constructive approval. A constructive approval would basically mean that they rubber stamped it. There was a procedural defect. We're not reviewing it. We're approved. In zoning cases, that would be the case. If you don't do it, they're just.
Right.
But different for this. It's not rubber stamped. There is a review process that has gone by DEP. So I caution the board to think that it's just a constructive approval. It's rubber stamped. DEP could have come back and said, nope, you don't meet the performance standards under the state. We're not giving you a superseding order of conditions. So they absolutely could have done that. So I caution the board on constructive approval using that term.
If you look at the letter from the DEP, and this is what's concerning to me. The DEP made findings. It said the department has determined that the wetland resource areas are significant and the proposed project will result in an improvement. So it wasn't that they said, okay, you're too late, so the heck with you. What they did, and the letter confirms that they made determinations. I don't know what they did.
But let's stretch it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the DEP finds under the DEP rules and regulations that we're going to issue the permit. Boom. But under your bylaw, which DEP has nothing to do with, okay, which is more strict.
I understand.
You're not going to meet those criteria, and you're not going to meet. You didn't meet the criteria.
Two different standards.
Exactly.
One up there and one here.
And so what happens is because it didn't get filed timely, we'll just say that, not constructive approval. Yep. DEP made the decision, and that's binding on both bylaw and local, correct? Because there was some court cases that state that, and I think you may be wanting to argue that, but I don't know where that will go.
All right. Do you think DEP would have voted differently if they got their appeal in time? They still reviewed it.
No, but here's the difference. If they would have gotten it in time, the applicant appealed to DEP, they would have also had to appeal to the courts. And the courts would have reviewed the application at a higher level, which would be the local conservation.
But that didn't happen.
I agree it didn't happen.
And I disagree that it would look at it at a higher level. It's not, the judge doesn't do a environmental impact review like with DEP. The judge, as with zoning appeals, will usually look at what the board did and whether or not, they were within the, was there evidence, things like that. So, and I think to make this assumption or leap that if it went to the courts, that they would have upheld the decision.
Oh, I didn't say that. I just said it would be looked at a higher level.
It'd be looked at differently.
Yeah, no question.
It'd be looked at differently.
And they may have upheld it too.
And they may have.
I don't know.
So.
So I got a couple of final questions. Is this, because of the way it stands now, I understand everything that happened, is this state the final order? Is there anything that anybody can do to change this?
So
in other words, going to town council and saying, look, we were late, what can we do?
Right, so I did submit a request for legal services, mostly in the interest because as a boilerplate condition in the orders of conditions that we issue under the bylaw, it says that it should be standard practice for the Conservation Commission in the event of a superseding order of conditions overturning their decision to issue a mirroring order of conditions, subject to other conditions, that doesn't change the project scope. But for instance, a prime example would be, you've got substantial mitigation. How about a 3-year contract to ensure the mitigation not only gets put in properly, but gets maintained and monitored over an extended period of time so that it truly thrives and truly makes a difference when it comes to flood storage capacity. So those are the sorts of questions that I have for our legal counsel that we are currently awaiting to hear back on. We can't issue an order of conditions that shrinks the project, that reduces the project, but we can issue order of conditions that we feel are necessary to ensure that the project is carried out as intended. So
can we
that's what
condition
I'm
that?
seeking legal
Can we condition that if they
Well,
have?
I don't think we have a right to condition on that, simply because that has not happened.
Okay, that's a question.
Yeah, I don't believe we have a right to
And
do that.
the way I would answer Jonathan's question, at this point in time, the appeals period is 10 days from when the superseding order of condition was issued. That 10 days has passed. So.
See, that's my last question is.
So it's my opinion, this is it.
Now that the gavel is dropped, so to speak, we really shouldn't be concerned with anything to do with the environmental or the conservation aspect, that rule has already been settled?
As chairman, I need to,
Is there gray area here?
as chairman, I need to speak up to that statement. And if I've
Well,
gone
I'd
over.
like to hear from everybody.
I'm more than happy to hear that, but I can tell you right now, this board is the last straw, and this board has rights in reference to issuance of a special permit. If you want, we can pass this around to the various members, and we have the rights to review storm flowage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to a very long process, okay? And I can tell you, we have the rights to review. Now, we are not conservation, we're not gonna talk about a shrub or whatever, but I can tell you, in the actual document, and I will read it very quickly, it says, and I think this is important, this is very big, okay? This is what the special permit decision that we need to make is guided by. It says, consistent with applicable state and town regulations, statutes, bylaws, and plans, says, applicable state and town regulation. We are overseeing town regulations when we approve or disapprove this special permit.
And state.
And state. States, bylaws, and plans will not adversely affect public health or safety, will not cause excessive demand on community facilities, will not significantly decrease, increase, or surface or groundwater quality or air quality, will not have a significant adverse impact on wildlife habitat, estuary systems, traffic flow, traffic safety, waterways, fisheries, public lands, or neighboring properties, will not cause excessive levels of noise, vibration, electrical disturbance, radioactivity, or glare, will not destroy or disrupt any species listed as rare, endangered, threatened by Massachusetts Natural Heritage Program or any known historic or archaeological site, will not produce amounts of trash, refuse, or debris in excess of town's landfill and waste disposal capacities, will properly dispose of stumps, construction debris, hazardous material, and other waste, will provide adequate off-street parking, will not cause excessive erosion, cause excessive runoff into neighboring properties, and it goes on from there.
I know.
Please.
Read it many times.
It's the same as on every project we do.
Right.
That's the same
It's the
stuff
same
we
thing.
vote
So
on.
the question
It's the same thing we've been voting on.
So that
for
says
20
rare
years.
species, everything that, a lot of things that conservation does, this board's, it's in the special permit that we have to issue in a raise and replace. So if we approve the raise and replace and we say yes to a special permit, we're saying none of those things are gonna be a negative in the neighborhood or the town. Correct.
By the
We've
information
also-
that we're given, yes.
We've
We are voting
also
on that.
been hearing these type of projects for 20 years.
And each one is
Approving
separate and
or
distinct.
not approving
And each
these.
one, as we know, is separate and distinct in its own.
Absolutely.
So, listen, I'm just telling you where I'm coming from and in talking to,
We know where you're coming from.
so.
But I would say that, at least from the applicant's perspective, we've brought our engineer who's provided you evidence of why there are not, those adverse impacts don't exist, given the amount of mitigation, given the flood zone compliance. And I don't know.
Chris.
You have a bylaw for raise and replaces that has specific criteria that's not part of. You have a special.
So you're saying the board shouldn't consider any of those things in issuing a special permit?
Not for a raise and replace.
The raise and replace says you must issue a special permit.
Based on no new nonconformities, sufficient parking, and not substantially more
I
detrimental.
disagree with you. I say when they issue a special permit, those things are included in the special permit. Chris, I'm not sitting here today saying I haven't made a decision whether I'm voting for or against this.
Right.
I've heard from your engineer saying the storage capacity is increased. I'm sitting there saying that's a good thing.
Right.
But I can tell you, I think I, as one member, are gonna look a lot closer at work within the flood zone than I've looked at in the past.
Yeah, and I mean,
You may not be that first person that's gonna be, have a problem with me.
Right.
But you may, depending upon input from the audience and other people.
Right. And again, I would just, when you talk about habitat, if you look at the rear of that property, it's majority of lawn area. That's all being replanted with native vegetation. That's
Again, I haven't made my decision.
Understood.
Chris, can I ask a question? And Drew as well. Do you think maybe if the two of you had some kind of a meeting after this hearing, and if we continued, that you could come to a meeting of the minds? Or no.
No.
I don't think Drew can make that call.
Yeah,
No.
It's
you can't do that at
it's
this
his
stage.
conservation committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Where,
Okay.
as was already
You can make
stated-
recommendations
This was
to
already
us, I
stated
would say.
previously, the bylaw doesn't apply. This is under the control of the state.
State has
The State
overruled it.
Department of Environmental
okay.
Protection
I
dictates
understand.
events moving forward.
I was just
But I
trying
am
to come up
seeking
with
legal
some kind of a-
clarification as far as like any additional conditions we can institute. It doesn't change the project scope, but
Understood.
requirements in certain areas that we have under our bylaw that may apply to this
Totally get
project.
it.
So to culminate, really, so the town enacted and went to town meeting and had a conservation bylaw, and the state at this point in time, technically, that bylaw was not overseen and is not instructed or part of this decision.
Yeah, it has no bearing.
No bearing whatsoever.
Correct.
Nope.
That's the point.
Can I ask maybe what's a stupid question, but right now, as we sit here, other than us as the zoning board of appeals, what entity has jurisdiction over this whole issue?
So I mean, I don't necessarily agree with what Chris said, that we're completely out of the picture. Obviously, we still enforce the State Wetlands Protection Act, so if something goes awry with this project, such as like, an erosion control failure or something like that, some of the specifics that we would normally have conditions over, we're not out of the picture in that regard. We still maintain jurisdiction of everything moving forward. We just lost the chance to institute our own conditions. It doesn't mean we lose jurisdiction, not at all.
Right. I think I would agree with Drew in that particular point.
As just my own thought, if we had an issue on a project that the state had a negative issue with it and said, this can't happen, you guys can't do this, we would listen to the state. Hey, the state says this can't happen.
Well, it depends on what, what it is.
I'm just saying, we would listen, if we're going by, information that comes to us and the state comes up and we get this paperwork that says, the state says, this is a bad idea, whether it's structural, conservation, whatever, we'd listen, hey, the state says, these are their experts, they're saying this is a bad thing, we shouldn't do it. In this case, the state's saying, this is a better than what's there now. That's my opinion.
Under the state guidelines, not our local bylaw.
I know.
And they didn't look at our bylaw. So the people of this town instituted a conservation bylaw, which is a higher bar than state. So the state looked at it and said, we're okay, but we're not taking it to that bar.
But that didn't happen. The state looked at what they was presented to them.
So this board, in its deliberation, has the right to look at that.
Okay, I'm just,
No, but I don't know-
I told you this is my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know that the state has a lower bar or a higher bar. I'm not sure that was what the case was. I think they looked at what Scott just presented, this is a better situation than what
They
previously.
look at this
Well,
every
why
day,
don't we
all day.
just, Drew, is it your opinion, correct me if I'm, is it your opinion that the state rules and regulations are not as a higher bar as the local conservation bylaw?
Well, I would say that for certain types of wetlands and wetland resource areas, specifically coastal bank, inland bank, and land subject to coastal storm flow, the bylaw has different standards than the state. And that difference, in most cases, is a stricter level of protection.
That's my point. And this board has the ability to review that.
Our job is to apply the zoning bylaws of the town of Mashpee to the matters that come before us.
Right, and in that, in issuing the special permit, I read off to you what that criteria is. And
It's complicated.
One last comment, if it's okay, just regarding the superseding on-site. I did some research into 310 CMR, I think it was 10.05, Section J, that goes over the procedures for appeals. A superseding on-site is not, from what I read, not required. It is, as you mentioned earlier, absolutely consistent practice in my 18 years with the town. I've never had a superseding appeal that did not have an on-site. Having said that, it is not required, and Greg DeCesar, the reviewer, did make that known to me, and in my response, I said, it just seems to me that you can glean much more while you're standing there looking at a site as opposed to a piece of paper. So I just wondered why there wasn't a superseding on-site in this case, when in every single appeal I've encountered in my 18 years with the town, there has always been a superseding on-site without fail, and I find that unusual. That's just my opinion.
Okay, well, anyone have any questions of Drew? I'm going to go to more audience input, please. Okay, anybody else in the audience like to speak? Yes, sir. Please give your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Paul Colombo. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. I presided over all of the hearings for 90 Pompanesett, and there were many of them. There was a lot of give and take in the project. We were very concerned about structures in the velocity zone, patios, swimming pools, retaining walls. My question, and I didn't bring it with me, when you look at the superseding order of conditions from the state, special condition number 11, do you have that paper in front of
Charlie
you?
would have that. I believe you have that, Charlie.
Hold on for a second, Paul.
It's
I think
way-
I do. The order of conditions?
Yeah, the superseding order. Yeah.
It's-
Which would be the only order, I guess.
It's the
No,
only order.
No, you issued an order, it just didn't get filed
We
timely.
issued a denial.
Yeah, so it would be, yeah, all right, exactly. So it would be the only order other than the denial.
It's a lengthy document. It's towards the end.
So it'd be under special conditions.
Yes.
I've got the order of conditions dated
I'm familiar with it. Page 13 is the last. Page 13.
Okay, hold on. Thank you.
Because I know there's been a lot of talk about, we do have higher regulations than the state. The state has no performance standards for
What number
lands.
is it again?
Page 13,
What
number
is it?
11.
Number 11. So the order does not relieve the permittee or any to the necessity of receiving approval of the proposed project under the town Mashpee wetland bylaw.
So typically, the state will not step in and interfere with a local bylaw because they realize that the bylaw is more stringent than their own requirements. So therefore, they've written this special condition in, perhaps not knowing that the appeal period had lapsed and that the denial, even though the denial is dated April 10th, the period of time to get that denial out, I believe, was April 13th. So through some oversight, it didn't get in the mail, because issuing, according to the state, is the postmark on that denial. So the postmark must have been after the 13th. Regardless, the entire commission, a unanimous denial based on Regulation 25, which is the local bylaw. So the state's not going to step in and say anything about that other than putting that special condition in, knowing that our law is more stringent than theirs. And this is exactly what the door you were knocking on, Chairman. So I find it kind of ironic that, we spent a lot of time with this project. Mark was there in those hearings, Drew was there, Steve Cook is here as well. We spent a lot of time with this, and it's not like we just didn't want this project to fly. We asked, and they gave. They gave quite a bit, but they didn't give enough. It didn't meet the regulatory conditions of Regulation 25. And the entire commission.
What is Regulation 25?
Regulation 25 are all of the criteria that we judge a project by for land, including land subject to coastal flow. And it's an old regulation. It dates back to 2005, and we're presently working on editing that out to bring it up to today's standards and what we're dealing with today. But regardless, it was judged on that regulation. And there were several things in there that just didn't jive with the regulatory language. One of the things that I see often with raise and replace jobs, and it's certainly not within the purview of conservation, but it's within your purview. In a job like this, where you have all these extra appurtenances, you have an extra, you didn't even want to call it a garage, but that's what it's called, a garage with living quarters above and a patio and a pool. Where do you get the square footage? Where do you get the lot coverage if the entire lot is land subject to coastal flow? How do you justify sticking all this extra coverage in? I don't understand how that can possibly happen. But that's for you guys to figure out. But between Special Condition 11, which caught my eye, and then not understanding how all these extra appurtenances can just be justified on a lot that's completely covered with land subject to coastal flow, I just wanted to bring those to your attention.
I did not pay attention to number 11 until you brought it to my attention. But if you look at it, it does not relieve the permittee or any other person of the necessity of receiving approval of the proposed project under the Town of Mashpee Wetland Bylaw. Now, am I correct that that approval cannot now be received from the Conservation Commission because of where the thing stands legally? Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Because now, if it isn't
It's
back to the
counterintuitive.
Conservation,
They made the statement, but the statement means nothing.
unless the statement means that it comes to another a board that enforces the zoning bylaws of the Town of Mashpee, and that's the Zoning Board of Appeals.
No,
Well, we don't enforce a town bylaw. We enforce a zoning bylaw.
Right.
Conservation
Oh,
is
okay,
a town
yeah,
bylaw.
I'm sorry.
We don't enforce town bylaw.
I read in something I shouldn't have read in.
Yes.
state-
But I can tell you that sentence in its own self is counterintuitive. They made the statement, but it has no meaning whatsoever.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
They probably figured that the town would have appealed the superseding order. You know, it was a 10-day period, but by the time the order came out and we had time to go through it,
Yeah.
of course, you're looking at the time frame too. This is right at the holidays, so, you know, it's tough to keep up with everything. But I wanted to bring those to your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else on? Steve?
Steve Cook, member of the Conservation Commission. This might be more of a clarification question. So I was reading the legal ad, and it mentions 174-17.1, but it doesn't mention 174-33, the 50-foot buffer from wetlands. And then, you know, on the Conservation Commission, we're seeing more of these tear-down rebuilds and so forth, and then I'm seeing it in my own business, too. So I just trying to get clarification from this board, why wasn't 174-33 listed? And then in light of that court case that, you know, mentioned about,
Well,
you know, coastal wetlands and so
The
forth.
question needs to be asked the applicant, Chris, are you getting the existing structure, are you moving the structure closer to the wetland or a pre-existing nonconformity?
It's a pre-existing non-conformity.
So Steve, to answer that question, I presume, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, the building as it sits today, prior to tear down, is that, or something is that close already to wetlands? They're not getting any closer.
Right, but then you add in new structures, and so.
Now, that would be the zoning enforcement officer.
New detached structures.
That would be David's decision.
So that, you know, I'm asking for more for clarification,
Yeah.
because we're seeing more of this on.
And I
I'm
think that's
guessing
David's.
that the new structure is not any closer
But
to the
isn't-
wetlands than the pre-existing structure. Is that correct?
But the whole property
Chris?
is in a
That's probably
wetland,
why.
That's why.
right?
So David, why don't we ask David, so David, what is your
I
thinking?
think
on
that's why they don't need any relief on 174,
Because it's not any
33.
closer than what
I haven't been writing.
currently exists.
Okay, so
I believe
then,
that's the answer.
so is
That's
the,
changed.
so if the court case mentions that, you know, that land subject to coastal storm flowage is a wetland, so the whole property is in a wetland.
That's correct.
So
Correct.
as Paul just mentioned before, there's no upland.
Right?
Correct.
Right.
Right. But
Right,
if they're
so-
not getting, so you're saying, I see your theory. You're saying because the whole property, so
How
they're
can you get
getting closer to the 50-foot setback because the whole property's in the setback.
Right.
They're
And
not
then,
getting any
you know,
closer
that's what
'cause
happened.
They're already in them.
So I'm just
100%.
asking more for
100%.
clarification,
But
whether,
yeah, he's saying, and I don't,
applies, yeah, no.
it's a stretch, he's saying if you add a building to that, then.
But you know the answer
Yeah,
already.
yeah,
We've been dealing with this for how long?
yeah, it's, we
This
don't
comes up
look at it that way, Steve.
Every time.
No.
I get your theory, but the board has not looked at it that way, and I don't believe the zoning enforcement officer looked at it that way.
so that court case,
No, the
That
court
doesn't
case,
apply
which
here?
clearly states that we cannot use land in 174-33 in lot coverage anymore. That's what it's saying.
Okay.
And so, but the fact that it's all within 174-33 or wetlands or whatever you want to call it, if it's all with 173 or 174-33, if it's all within that property, just because they add a building, but it's not, that does not make the criteria that it's closer to the 50 feet or not. We don't utilize that as a standard.
We go to the closest building to the
Okay.
wetlands.
Yeah.
All right, so
That's
that's why I
Yeah.
prefaced it by saying it's a clarification
Yeah,
question.
I
I'm trying
think-
to, I'm trying to understand it
Yeah.
and see how it
Yep.
works. I
I
didn't know
don't
whether it
think that's-
applied here or not, you know, so.
Do you have anything to add to this?
No,
scenario?
that's all.
All right,
That's all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience?
What did you want to say?
Well, what I
The only thing I could say is.
1 second.
The only thing
Sure,
I
Dave.
could say is that, you know, there's no, as we pointed out, there is no new nonconformities.
Right.
Correct.
And there's no expansion of any existing nonconformities, am I correct?
Well, lot coverage.
Say again?
The lot coverage, technically.
Yeah, but it's 100%, right?
But it's 100 to
So
100.
it's 100 to 100, so you're not increasing any under the court's decision, you're not increasing in a nonconformity,
And structure coverage is going from 14 to 15.7 or whatever.
which
that
is not
number
a
was.
zoning issue, it's only for this
Right, it's for a
board.
point of reference for the board.
Exactly.
But I don't know, Marion, do you have the complete application? I usually,
I usually do too.
I think I applied under
Did you
175.
apply one, they did?
No, I didn't see that.
Well, you gotta
a
look at
problem.
Mary Ann's.
But it is 117.1 and
Oh,
174.17
Well, it wasn't advertised under
covers that
174.
as well.
Well, I'm not responsible for the advertising, but we do it as a catch-all. But again, ultimately, the way the board is reviewing it, it's a there is a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
But I understand Steve's thought. As counsel, you need to make a decision, I would think, and I understand you weren't part of the advertising. But if this board makes a decision and finds in your favor, right, there could be some grounds for an appeal here.
No, there's no,
It's your decision.
I'm comfortable going forward.
Okay, all right. All right, so anyone else in the audience? Anyone else have any input? All right, board members, how would you like to proceed?
I think Mark has a comment.
Oh, I didn't see, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was
apologize.
letting you ask for public first. I would just like to make a couple quick responses to
Take your time.
Mr. Colombo's and Mr. McManus's, because it, again, as we know, they failed to act according to Mass General laws, and we appealed with respect to their bylaw. I just want to make a couple notes. In one of the documents that Drew supplied was the number of hearings we went through and the reasons for their denial. And, you know, on 4/6/23, when they did final deliberations, their motion to denial, they vote to deny order conditions without prejudice for failure to meet performance standards, Regulation 25, Section 7 setbacks. That particular section has, under the current commission, has approved and disapproved and has been all over the board on projects our firm has represented as well as other projects. After this denial, projects were approved with this same setback that issue. Expansions in velocity zone was approved at a separate project. There's an interpretation changing throughout the commission over the last year and a half. Regulations have not changed. Their bylaw did change to change buffer zones. The regulations have not changed. The only other thing I wanted to mention is in the minutes, the senior member of the staff and the commission, Drew McManus, recommended closing and issuing and approving the project. He recommended, this is reading directly out of the minutes, has provided that the applicant has provided and detailed rigorous breakdown of impacts of the proposed activities as applies to standards under Regulation 25 in the velocity zone, and has met the burden of proof regarding potential adverse impacts to land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the proposed mitigation will offset any potential adverse impacts. That was.
Where are you reading that from?
The minutes of their meeting.
Conservation meeting minutes.
You know, that's all, I get it, that's still between you and conservation if you choose. And I understand why you're saying it, because they they were on the other side and made a counter statement on that, but.
Well, I think it also provides some guidance to this
Yeah.
board. If we're going to focus on, this board's going to focus on wetland issues, and you have two sides of this.
Well, I don't think this board should, I think this board should focus on what it's required to issue a special permit. And I disagree with your theory that it's not totally encompassing of what I read to the board. I believe it is, and I believe the board should pay close attention to it.
Ron, I have a question.
Shoot.
Mark, you said that the board, conservation, has sometimes on the same thing said okay and not okay. Can you give me any examples in that
Correct.
area? Address this.
I mean, if a building already
Right off
has a
the top of your
permit,
head.
there's, 81 Bluff, I think, it was an expansion of a house completely in a floodplain. They did not require a waiver or any, this particular setback from 50 feet from a floodplain, which is a whole nother story.
Is that the one on stilts?
No.
Right on the water?
No, but that one was entirely in a velocity zone. That was improved and was expanded.
But Mark, he just asked a question. Same thing. You're an engineer. Same thing. That would be velocity, that would be height, that would be exact height, that would be exact velocity. It's not the same thing.
What I'm trying to find out, is there consistency with what conservation issues and doesn't issue?
But that's a whole other, that's a slippery slope.
That's not us.
Yeah, I think, Sean,
Well, that's what's being presented right now.
I'm
And that's what you're asking us to determine. And
I'm
so
asking this
both of
board to
these-
make a decision based on its rules and regulations, not conservation whatsoever.
Yeah, but like, to
I'm trying to get to the
conservation's
bottom of
defense, we treat each property as a separate entity.
Correct.
So I would think conservation would be doing the same
I
thing.
would presume they would. All that I'm saying is, we have our own rules and regulations, and they're called rules and regulations.
You're missing my point, Ron. My point is, if there's a situation here, which is the same as this one, and the same as this one, and you're ruling differently, the question is why?
But that's between the applicant and the Conservation Commission, not us.
Yeah, but I want to know.
but how do we know that it's exactly the same? That's the
It's-
problem.
That's what I'm asking.
It can't be. If he says it's exactly the same.
That's
then
what I'm asking.
We gotta sit down in front of your professor and talk about that. Exactly the same.
The regulation is the same.
I agree, but
Property is different.
situation, the property, the zone, the height of the water, the velocity of the water, everything is exactly the same.
I'm going to make a general statement. Right now, we, as a firm, are being asked to submit waiver requests for every project that expands a structure within 50 feet of land subject to coastal storm flowage.
On every project.
Every project that has an expansion of structure in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Right now, we are being asked to submit that with all our projects. Regulations have not changed. We got 8 other projects approved last year, just 2023, that did not need to submit
Why the
this waiver
change?
request. An
But it's
interpretation.
not, but it's.
But the rules have not changed.
Correct.
The only thing I would say, I kind of want to, I feel like I agree with the chair, we're kind of getting off topic.
It's not our business,
Right.
that's my
It
point.
isn't our business.
But what
It
is?
isn't, that's just
conservation.
But if this, as Mr.
This is
Chair,
the sticking point.
as the chair points out, there are certain criteria that a special permit needs to meet.
Correct.
And that one of those is habitat. And we're going from lawn area to natural vegetation, improvement of habitat.
right.
Flood storage capacity. Mark has presented evidence to this board that there is increased flood storage capacity.
Correct.
Waters and estuaries. You have DEP who said that it's a better project. You have an IA system. So benefits to groundwater right there.
And everything you're saying makes total sense, and I'm not saying I'm gonna vote
Right.
against it. All I'm saying to this board is we have our own rules and regulations that we need to uphold.
Well, I
That's
think,
it.
no, right, but I think it's, if this board is going to hold, I think it's incumbent on the applicant to give you that evidence of why.
Oh, I think you're right,
Right, and that's what
without
I'm
a
trying- That's all
doubt.
I'm trying to do.
I agree, and I think the fact that someone else, whether it be the state or someone else, has made that finding, that's great.
Right.
All I'm saying to you is, we need to look at that as a board, that's all.
Right, and as I say, all I'm trying to do is present
And whether
evidence.
conservation makes their decision, didn't make a decision, chooses to deny every project that's in front, that's their decision. It's a different, it's not us, it's their authority, it's their rights, not ours.
Right. But as I say, if the board is going to review under that standard, you know, I think it's incumbent on me to say, this is why.
As a chairman, I think it's incumbent on me to make sure that the board oversees and makes a decision on this special permit based on what I read.
Right.
Minimum.
I agree.
That's all.
Okay.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
I can clarify what Mark is talking about in terms of that.
Come up to the
You
mic.
gotta
Come
come
up
up.
to the mic.
And just if you could restate
Identify.
your name, please, and I'd rather not get into a big back and forth, but I understand where you're at, so please feel free to speak.
Again, for the record, Paul Colombo, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Going back to prior to 90 Pompanesett Island Road hearing, I was the one that brought up the setback requirements that are found in Regulation 25, C7, 1 and 2. I brought my concerns to town manager and legal counsel. I brought my concerns to our conservation agent. Both the conservation agent and me disagreed on the interpretation of that setback requirement that is in our bylaw. So I
town
went
council
further ahead.
agreed.
I've been reading regulatory language for 40 years. When I read a regulation, you read it in plain language. You don't interpret it. A lawyer can interpret it. So I took it to our town manager, and he said, let's take it to town council. Town council found that that standard, that setback standard, Regulation 25C7, is a applicable performance standard. That's why everybody's now going to ask for a waiver, because when you're in land subject to coastal flow, you are inside a resource area. There has to be a setback to a resource area.
And I was
So to
part of that
expand-
decision.
And to
Town council chair.
expand a home, the footprint of a home, where's your setback? You don't have one. I can see where you can raise and replace a home with the legally permitted existing footprint, but to make that footprint bigger and then add on several appurtenances without setback, the regulation doesn't allow it. That's why we denied it unanimously.
And you started, correct me if I'm wrong, when town council gave you that decision, that's when you started making a different outcome to applicants.
Not unanimously.
And town council did not share that with me exactly specifically, but I became aware of that decision at that
It
point.
wasn't unanimous. In fact, I was before your board before asking about setback because I was voting no and other commissioners just hadn't got on board. But people are pretty much on board now. When legal counsel says this is an applicable performance standard, you have to use it. And we wouldn't even be here if we didn't have an administrative hiccup and missed the filing deadline by a day or two. So I just wanted to clear that up because I could see that you were confused. And I think people have been confused for many, many years. I mean, I read it, and it took me a while to get coastal regulations because when I did all my work in Central Mass, we didn't have to worry about coastal regulations. But I know them now. And I brought them to legal counsel, and it was confirmed. And we will hold that regulation to everyone who comes. If they ask for a waiver and they have compelling reasons, we'll entertain that. We may give a waiver. We don't have to, but we may.
And I was made aware of town council's decision, and he is correct 100%.
And we had a lengthy meeting with the community development director, town council,
Correct.
town manager, conservation agent, and me.
Thank you very much for clarifying.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? One more comment, if you would, please, but I understand that you certainly have the right to say your side.
And we are also, through a number of clients, getting attorney involved to dispute your attorney's determination. It is more than obviously clear from an expert opinion, Drew's opinion, what the purpose of Section 25, or Regulation 25, Section 7 is. I have it here. I have the definitions. It's not a meaning of a slash. It's the definitions within the regulation.
But you must agree, though, that town council, who represents this board, who represents conservation, represents the town of Mashpee, he made a decision, and so the conservation is following his decision. Right, he made an interpretation.
Right now, yes.
Yeah, so my point is I don't think, and it's not upon this board's, it's not this board's purview to make any conservation decision, but I can tell you, I was aware of that scenario. I just wanted to let this whole thing play out. I knew why this scenario happened, and so town council has spoken out. But it's not this board's purview. It's out of our purview, it has nothing to do with us, but I understand now. Well, I understood before, but I understand this situation.
And just the last thing I want to say is we designed the project to what we knew at the time were your regulations, how they were being interpreted, working with the agent who strongly, well, not strongly, but in writing, said it was an approvable project at the time. That's how we described it. We also have record that DEP, according to the Wetland Protection Act, feels it was designed appropriately too. So, using our best experience, that's how the project was permitted or designed at the time.
Understood. Let's move it along if we could. Thank you very much. Any board questions? All right. Seeing none, I think I've covered the audience. I've covered David. I've covered the board. I think I'm at the point where I can ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, discussion on issuing decision in reference to the application.
I have a question relative to conditions to be associated with the vote. It's not on here, but should it be conditioned in part and based upon the written superseding order of condition?
That's a town,
of
we can't do it,
1226?
Charlie, that's a town bylaw, we don't oversee town bylaws. I don't think we'd have that right.
No.
I think we're overstepping our bounds.
We're kind of stuck where we.
No, I understood,
We're
but
overstepping our bounds, I think.
the EPA, should that be mentioned in conditions at all? I didn't think it should.
I don't think so. I don't think so, and I don't
That's what
think,
I'm saying,
we don't oversee a town bylaw, we oversee
No,
a
okay,
zoning
no,
bylaw.
that's
so
fine.
I
So,
don't think I want to go anywhere near that,
It's already all in the record.
yeah.
Just
It
one
is.
small thing, David brought up the V-zone with the deck, that it has to be a self-contained structure, a self-supported structure, can't be attached to the building. Is that fall into the
Oh,
building?
you certainly could condition that.
I think that's.
I think that would become a David at the time of permitting issue, right? More than it would be us, but if
think
you
that's-
want, I don't think that's a problem if you choose to do that. I don't think the applicant would be against that, would
No,
you?
and I mean, it's already shown on the plans
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
It's on the
Well,
plan.
I don't think it is shown on the plans that way, maybe on the site plan, the building plans don't show it.
No, it should.
but we don't
But I mean,
need
if the
that
board
as,
needs to condition it, I mean, that's an
Yeah.
absolute
It just-
requirement, so it's not.
I've had to go through in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's,
I would condition it that any structure that's in the V-zone meet the regulations of a V-zone.
Right.
Keep it simple as that,
Yeah, there's
Don't need to get
no
into
issue
the
with that.
nuts and bolts of it.
any structure of A?
Any structure that falls within the V-zone should be,
well, you want to be specific on this application if you're going to make a motion, right? So
Well,
I
any
presume the
structure
motion
in
would
the
be,
any structure that's in the V-zone meet the conditions of a V-zone.
Right.
Yeah. Meet
Doesn't
building
that go
code.
without saying?
it does go out.
It does and it doesn't.
But aren't you being
It's a house-
specific, you want to say that the plans be corrected, because you're saying,
Yeah, 'cause I'm
the
not
plans
seeing
be
it on the
corrected to
plan that-
depict the fact that
When David brought it up, I looked at the plans and I don't see that.
so the house plans need to be corrected to clearly
Or
show.
clarified, I don't think these are completed plans,
Okay.
these are,
But I
Progress
think
set.
David would handle that during,
well, that's why I brought it up, I wasn't sure if we
Building
need to
permit.
condition. it.
David, could you
think-
handle that during the
Yeah,
permitting?
Like I said, it's gonna be under,
So it goes
especially
without
the foundations are gonna be under,
And that's why I
under
brought it up.
tremendous scrutiny.
Could we just
Not
simply
even just
state
by my office.
any structure in the V-zone meet conditions of a V-zone and be reflected in the plans?
You certainly could do that, I think
Then
you're being
David-
repetitive, I think they have to do that when they go meet with him.
Right.
Okay.
When they walk in and say,
Then-
"Hi,
then-
David, how are you? I'd like to submit the following
Yeah.
plans," he's gonna say, "They don't meet the V zone."
Okay,
They're
then,
gonna throw this.
then I don't think you need it.
Yeah,
Then
I think
okay.
we're being overly
Too much
cumbersome
stuff.
if you
Okay.
I
choose to
just
make
made
a
a note
motion.
when it came up, so.
I mean, I think the question right now is, if you're gonna make a motion, just that's certainly the right of this board.
Well, you know, looking at the motion that we have prepared, it looks like that covers everything that we need to have to vote on this. As we talk about all department comments read into the record, including Board of Health.
I think your standard motion would
Yeah,
cover.
I don't think we're adding anything.
No, I don't think, yeah.
I don't recall that.
If we add something, then we go down a kind of another slippery slope. What else do we add?
I don't believe if you're gonna make a motion, I don't believe that that there's anything to be added to DEP or superseding order in it. That is out of our purview. It has nothing to do with us.
I agree.
Technically, although, I mean, again, I'm being trite, we have our own rules and regulations we have to follow.
Okay, so the motion will be.
the record.
Motion will be as I read it now, which reflects what
Well,
we
can I
have
just
received.
Stop
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick, because I'm a little confused, because I just looked on here, and it says the building plans, I think I'm missing something. I thought it said the building plans are Architect Associates.
They're not.
It's Dariv Nikoloff.
Correct. The rev is the,
But this, he's gonna read the motion, it says
yeah. I think that.
Architect Associates.
Right. I don't think your motion has been updated because when this project first
So
came
what-
before
what
you.
should it be for the record?
It should be
Dariv
Darev's plans. Nikolov's.
Dariv Nikoloff.
So
I think the
Nikoloff
original
Architecture.
architect, this project came before this board, you know, a year ago, and I think the original architect was architect, but that is the,
Nikoloff Architect.
Nikolov is the right
I just
architect.
happened to look at it.
So that should be included under number 4.
Look at it.
Under number 4, correct.
Right.
Oh, under 4, okay, number 3.
Yeah,
it
on
says
building
Nikoloff.
plans, it says,
Yep, I got it.
Yep.
Yep, I'm good.
yeah, it says Nikoloff, but under mitigation plan, it has Architect Associates. I don't know why. So, okay.
Okay?
just clarify.
So you're gonna amend the motion to include the
I'm
new
only
architect?
I'm going to include Nikoloff Architecture and Design under number 4, mitigation plans.
Instead of
Substitute that for, right?
Well, maybe Mark can answer this. Why is Architect Associates even listed under mitigation plans?
I have the mitigation.
Oh, it's
It's
this one
Crawford
here.
Land Management for the.
Yeah, well, that's
mitigation.
on there too. Well, I think it says prepared for Giblin residents, survey engineer, Cape and Islands Engineering, Architect Associates, prepared by Crawford Land Management.
Yeah.
He's the architect.
It might just be a typo.
The client changed architects. It
Okay.
should be Cape and Islands, Dariv,
Okay.
and Crawford Land Management.
All right, so just change the architect to Nikoloff Architecture.
So I leave Crawford Land Management dated 1/19/2014, and I substitute Nikoloff Associates for
Yes, that's not mitigation.
for Architect Associates.
Okay.
All right.
It'll work.
All set, Ron, I guess.
Feel free, John.
All right, I will, I do.
You will.
To make a motion relative to 90 Papaneset Island Road. Owner Brendan P. Gibland requests a special permit under 174-17.1 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming residential structure and replace it with a new single-family residential structure with associated pool and detached garage with guest suite above on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 106, parcel 34, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Motion. Number 1, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a special permit under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 9. 2, site plan, project 90 Papaneset Island Road, prepared for Brendan P. Giblin, sheet number 1 of 1, date December 2, 2022, drawn by WNH, checked by MD, drawing title, plan of proposed dwelling and pool, revision dates 1/27/23. Revised garage, pool, and patio areas to reduce work in natural 50 to 100 feet buffer, 2/14/23. Revised pool size and equipment location 2/16/23. Add zoning table 1/16/24. Minor architectural coordination prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering, stamped and signed by Mark Dibb, civil number 45937, and Matthew C. Costa, number 52282. Building plans. Giblin Residence, 90 Papaneset Island Road, date 1/18/24, prepared by Nikoloff Architecture and Design. Page 1, basement floor plan. Page 2, first floor plan. Page 3, second floor plan. Page 4, roof plan. Page 5, west elevation. Page 6, east elevation. Page 7, north elevation. Page 8, south elevation. Page 9, garage west and east elevations. Page 10, garage north and south elevations. Page 11, flood panels diagram. Page 12, flood panels smart vent. 4, mitigation plans, prepared for Gippsland residents, surveyor, engineer, and engineer, Nikoloff Architecture and
Cape and Islands.
Oh, Cape and Islands, I'm sorry, Cape and Islands Engineering, architect, Nikoloff Architecture and Design, prepared by Crawford Land Management, dated 1/19/2024. Condition on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Board of Health. Any changes to the plans will require the applicant to return to this board.
I'll second.
There's another page.
Seven.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't have that page. Yep. The board finds, yep, thank you. The board finds that the application as submitted is not substantially more detrimental than what existed prior to removal of the existing structure, and that there is adequate land area to provide sufficient parking, and there are no new nonconformities being created. Thank you.
All right, I'll second.
So we're going to do a roll call vote with, starting with Scott,
I'm in favor.
okay?
I'm in favor.
Yes.
Yes.
I will say that I'm in favor with a caveat that I thank the applicant being thorough. I think you've proved that you meet our regulations in reference to a special permit, but I will caution everyone in reference to future applications, I'm going to be looking very careful at those requirements. So I am a yes. Thank you very much. Good work.
Big time.
That was the longest one I did.
The longest ever.
What's all this? This all?
Go to do it,
Hour,
Mary Ann.
anyway.
We've had some long ones. It's been a while, but we've had some.
This is pretty long.
We've had long ones.
I think we've had longer.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that came out.
Yeah,
Well, there's a lot of people that got up and spoke too, so there's a lot of back and forth.
We had to get a lot of information on this one.
You bet.
Yeah.
It's unique.
bet.
It's a very unique one for us, so it required,
Okay.
thanks, Mike. But there's more.
Send that to. Any papers to go back?
No? I think the next one's going on.
So what have we got? Mary Ann?
Being continued, Nick Trail?
That's good.
I
No,
think you've got all the plans.
Guess what?
There's one right here too.
Guess what? There it is.
That's yours.
Well, I
The
guess-
marathon.
Trail's being continued.
Yeah.
Got himself good.
Ron, is Nick Trail still on? Nick Trail, the next one?
I don't know. I think they're extending, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't think Jonathan's sitting if it is.
Because I
Is Nick Trail on or is it going to be extended?
you want that one too?
Oh, it's on.
Okay.
It's on.
What's next?
There you go.
Trail.
Nick Trail.
I'm gonna sit down.
Oh, come on. I know.
Call me,
Yep,
call me when you're done.
I will do so.
Is it Nick Trail continued?
No, I'm hearing that it isn't continuing, correct?
Oh,
Sorry?
You're moving forward?
are you
You're not
continuing?
continuing, or you're moving forward?
I'm moving forward on everything else tonight.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll try to keep the next two.
Under an
Make
hour?
them a little bit more
You
simple.
may
please.
try, but they may not.
Well, this one.
Oh,
may
I'm
not.
sorry.
The wrong one.
Do you have everything? Or do we waiting on?
No, Jonathan stepped out.
No, I'm saying the piece of paper. Do you have everything,
It's already
Marion?
back.
Okay, good. All right, so, George, why don't you read the next continued public hearing, 37 Nick Trail, please?
37 Nick Trail, owners Brian J. and Karen F. Kelleher request a variance from section 174-31, special footnote 12, the zoning bylaws to allow for separation of a merged lot shown on Assessor's Map 117, parcel 300, and located in the R3 and Papaneset overlay districts. Map 117, parcel 300, Mashpee, Mass. Continued from December 13th, 2023 hearings at the request of the attorney.
Okay. Yeah, I might as well take them all. All right.
Good evening, again, members, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Attorney Christopher Crane. I'm representing Brian Kelleher. He is the owner of 2 lots.
Chris, excuse me one second. I just gotta, so people sitting would be the 4 regular members, and why don't we go with George? How's that? Yeah. Right? Sorry, Chris.
No, that's okay. So again, I represent Brian Kelleher. He is the owner of 2 lots, one being 37 Nick Trail and the other being Lot 5 on Uncle Henry's Road. We have filed a variance request of this board to unmerge these lots. So these lots are held in common ownership, so there's no question about that. These lots, and the reason for this variance request is because these lots are located within the Pompanesett Overlay District. The Pompanesett Overlay District requires 6,000 square feet of lot area and 60 feet of frontage. Up until 2023, December, these lots had 6,000 square feet of lot area and 60 feet of frontage. However, they are in the flood zone, and due to the waiting place decision, this lot goes from 6,000 square feet to 0 square feet. So again, if Mr. Kelleher had come before the town in 2021 and asked Mr. Morris for a building permit, irrespective of the common ownership issue, he would have issued him a building permit. However, that is no longer the case given the waiting place decision. So as the board knows, a variance can be granted by this board if there is a hardship based on either soil conditions, topography, or shape. It is my contention, and I submitted a letter prior to this, that the wetland resource, the flood zone, does create a soil condition and a topography issue. And I cited a case to that effect where the court did state that a wetland resource area can be considered a soil condition or topography, which would form the basis of a variance request. So obviously there is a hardship to Mr. Kelleher because he thought that he had 2 potentially buildable lots. He received no notice that potentially they'd be unbuildable, and they're only unbuildable due to a court case for which he was not a party to and had no notice of. Generally speaking, when there is a zoning bylaw change, there is a public notice, a public hearing, a grandfathering period, and an opportunity to protect yourself. None of those were afforded Mr. Kelleher in this case. So I know one of the questions that will come up is that Mr. Kelleher requested from the Board of Health a determination that the lot was not buildable. I want to be very clear in that letter that the lot is unbuildable solely at this time because of a Board of Health issue because of the lack of nitrogen credit land. The Board of Health can consider this a buildable lot for their purposes if Mr. Kelleher goes and buys, or however you do it, goes and gets nitrogen credit land. So the Board of Health issue is not an obstacle for this being buildable. So I want to make that clear. But at that time, it didn't have the nitrogen credit land for Board of Health concerns. It was not considered buildable for those purposes. But again, if he can get the credit land, then from a Board of Health perspective, this lot can be built on, provided that this board grants the variance. But I don't want the Board of Health issue to cloud this board's, view of the application, because it was never meant to make it unbuildable from a building department's point of view.
Okay, you all set?
No.
Sorry. Charlie, would you like to read into the record, please? All
We
comments.
have 3 things, Board of Health, we have Conservation, and comment from Evan Lehrer.
Please.
In order, Board of Health comments.
Yep.
Nick Trail 37 Nick Trail, Lot 6, map 117, parcel 300, will be 6,500 square feet. 64 Uncle Henry's, Lot 5, map 117, parcel 301, will be 6,000 square feet, making it unbuildable without nitrogen credit land of at least 4,000 square feet for one bedroom. An email dated 4/4/2008 from Mr. Brian Kelleher requesting a letter from the Board of Health stating this lot is not a, quote, buildable lot, end quote. A letter was written to Mr. Brian Kelleher per his request on 4/11/2008 stating 64 Uncle Henry's, Lot 5, map 117, parcel 301 is not buildable. Next, Conservation Commission, 37 Nick Trail. Property lies within the FEMA mapped velocity zone and is thus subject to wetlands jurisdiction under Mashpee's Chapter 172 Wetland Bylaw. As this application does not propose any actual alterations of the subject lot, it does not fall under Concom purview.
I'm sorry, that's in a B zone?
I didn't realize that. I thought it was in an AE, but.
I did too.
Yeah.
I built the house across the street.
Yeah, that may be
And
incorrect.
we had to raise it up
It's
and
not in
everything.
a
but-
B zone.
Yeah, I don't think it's in a
No,
V
that
zone.
can't be the B zone.
It's in a
wrong.
flood, it's
Right.
completely in a flood zone.
Right.
All
I
right, so I
mean,
don't know why they said that.
if there was ever to be development on this property, it would, I mean, it's in a flood zone. It'd have to
So
go.
it's in a flood zone, so it's still 100%. There's no,
Most of the homes down there that have been raised and replaced had been raised up and the septic systems have been raised.
so it's still 100% lot coverage.
Correct, right.
Yeah.
So.
How do you want me to handle it with what I got from Conservation then?
Is there a, what's it, lengthy? I did read it.
Oh, no,
Pretty quick. I'm
It's, the
sorry.
Conservation indicates that it's within the FEMA
V
map
zone.
velocity zone. That's what Conservation report to us
Well, I
says.
think you need to read the record and
Read it
read
in
the
and-
letter into the record. Doesn't mean we agree with it, but I would read it into the record.
I just did. So
Okay.
that's.
Yeah,
So
he did.
just, you know, that's it.
He did.
And really, whether it's in an AE zone or V zone for tonight's purposes is really irrelevant.
I agree, because it's 100% lot coverage.
Correct.
And Evans is relatively short, so I'll read the whole thing.
Yes.
37 Nick Trail, Assessors Map 117, Lot 300. The applicant is requested variance relief for the minimum required lot area because the subject lot is located totally within the flood zone and thus has no usable land area. My comments will be limited here because the nature of this request is completely and totally unsupported by the Massachusetts general laws and Mashpee zoning bylaw. When adjacent lots that are non-conforming are held in common ownership, they merge for the purposes of zoning, and once merged, they cannot be unmerged. Granting of relief in this case, in my opinion, would derogate from the purpose and intent of the bylaws. Further, there is no demonstrable unique shape, soil condition, or topographical condition necessitating the relief. This appears to be a self-imposed hardship that the applicant is now seeking relief from. It should be rejected. His recommendation: I recommend the board deny the requested variance relief on the basis that there is no unique lot shape, soil condition, or topography that is constituting a hardship to the applicant.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I make a comment?
Certainly.
There's a fourth hardship. That's financial.
Yes.
Just wanted to add that to the other three.
And I would disagree with Mr. Laird's assessment that this is a self-imposed hardship. My client didn't do anything, you know?
Well, let's keep reading, please.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's all Evan
Any
said.
other letters?
Nope.
That's it. All right, so that being said, board questions.
Well, I do want to make a point that if we unmerge the land, then the home becomes non-conforming. See?
Well, the home is already non-conforming.
Yeah,
But if
I understand your point. I have a lot of topics that I'm going to discuss with you, but I want to make sure that everyone else is finished first.
No.
I understand your point.
yeah, it makes it more non-conforming.
It could become more non-conforming, depending upon how you break it up. But I get her point.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I'll wait till the end.
When you say that, I'd like to understand what you're saying. The unmerged,
That's it more
It
non-conforming.
becomes more non-conforming
when you merge.
when you.
Unmoored, when you take land
unmerge it.
away.
When you, if we
Depending
go
upon how
up
you
and-
do it.
If we're gonna go right
if I
on that
could-
line,
if I
it
could say
becomes
something.
more
Yeah,
non-conforming.
I'll let the board, then I gotta write to you.
All right.
I'll hold, anyone else from the board, because I'm gonna go to David. I'll hold my comments till after David.
I'm puzzled with the approach, because you look, asking for a variance for parcel map 117, parcel 300, right? That parcel is now 1,200. The parcel has been merged by the owner to exceed the 10,000 square foot mark, am I right? For Board of Health reasons.
There's no merger. There's been no,
Well,
the applicant has done nothing to legally merge them. He hasn't filed a plan with the Registry of Deeds. He has not changed.
No,
the
but
de-
ownership-wise, it's in the same name.
That is correct.
So the bottom line is, as far as zoning is concerned, one name owns it, one name combined it, there's no plans filed,
All right, let
but
me-
from this board standpoint, and David's point, it's one property.
Exactly. I don't disagree. The properties are considered merged.
Which are in excess of 10,000 square feet.
The lot 6, we get this map here, there's 2 different lots there. That's not how it is, and that's not how it's registered, that's not how.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, absolutely.
This-
If you go to the land court.
This is, lot 6 is lot 300. Lot 5, the X lot 5, because it doesn't exist anymore, was lot 301. The whole lot now is 12,500 square feet, is one lot. You're asking for a variance for a house that's already there,
No. I'm asking, these lots
so
were,
they can unmerge. So that's what it says on the proposal, so they can unmerge. I don't understand the approach, because these aren't 2 separate lots.
they were originally created under a land court plan as 2 separate lots.
Correct.
Okay? So that's the beginning position. Up until the waiting place decision, they're 2 separate lots. They were not merged. Just because they were in common ownership, they were not merged. It wasn't.
I think we're dealing with semantics though, Chris.
No, that's not true.
Well, all right, so they haven't merged from a planning standpoint, from a plan that merged them that says, you know, all right, go to the planning board and have them sign an A&R, whatever, but they have merged from ownership.
I need to try to make the distinction clear to the board. 2 lots that are held in common ownership do not merge if they meet zoning requirements.
Correct, but they don't.
Now they don't.
We're living now.
I understand
Today's
that.
now.
But that's why.
I don't, it doesn't matter what happened last week, we're living in today.
But I know, but when the building commissioner says, well, why, I don't understand your approach, that's why there's this
Well,
approach.
I'll be up to the plate after him, and I've got more under, I don't understand your approach, but what he's saying is to me correct in that, okay, living in today's world, that lot is over 10,000 square feet.
Well, it's 0 square feet technically.
Well, I understand, but let's talk square footage and not talk about lot coverage. Let's talk about square footage.
Correct.
It's over 10,000 square feet.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so, take it from there, David. It's over 10,000. You just concurred with that.
It's over 10, it says right on that
Yep.
deed there, it says 12, the lot is one lot and it's 12,500. So you want to get a variance for the entire lot for,
I want to put them
For
back the way
land
they were
subject-
when the land court plan was approved and what's on record.
Well, why don't I interject for a second, and David, you can fill in the hole. You talked about notice.
Yes,
We don't have to give notice when a judge tells us we've been overseeing a bylaw incorrectly.
I understand that.
So it's not notice. Take notice out. Talk about your case that you cite. I disagree with the cases, the way you expand on it and how you come up with your decision on that case. I do not believe that a floodplain has anything to do with soil at all. Wetland does, but a floodplain does not. It's probably sandy soils there. I don't know, you built a house across the street. Is it sandy soil?
It's sandy soil, but you don't have to go far to hit water.
But we're all talking about
Yeah,
soil
it's
content.
sandy.
Sandy soil, right near the beach. It's all sandy. It is not soil content. I don't believe you have a right to a variance.
Well, topography, flood zone's topography.
I don't believe that the topography issue is, I'm talking topography. Don't have that issue. My point is this, I don't believe that you have a right to a variance. But even on top of that, let's just say that you did, okay? These lots have merged through ownership, okay? And the minimum lot size in that zone today is what?
6,000 square feet.
Okay. Do you have 12,000 square feet?
Yes, I have a 6,000 square foot lot, and I have a 6,500 square foot lot.
No, you don't.
Well, I 2-0, but
Exactly.
yes.
You don't have it. You don't have the square footage anymore. And you're right. A judge came upon this board and said, you have been doing something wrong and you're gonna do it right from here on out. We gotta do it right. And you know what right says? You don't have any lots. You don't have any square footage at all in those lots. David and I discussed this situation. The person that really gets hurt is the person that has, or not, that has to deal with this issue is a better way to put it. There's no structure on the lot, right? That has it all in a floodplain. But in this case, at least you have one house on it.
I guess.
Because as the chairman of this board, I'm not gonna recommend to this board to unmerge these lots. Because I have a lot of theories. We could talk for an hour.
Right.
And it's not gonna get us anywhere, other than it's gonna give more insight for this board to say no to your request. Because I firmly disagree with your case law study. I don't disagree. I disagree with that completely. I read it. It's not on point.
I think I disagree.
Well, that's part of life, right? And so, I totally disagree.
I look at it as the carts before the horse.
Yeah.
Because that lot line is erased.
You know a better way to put it, I think? Go to the planning board and do an A&R.
What's an A&R?
Approval not required plan. That's the easiest way to do it.
But my opinion.
Excuse me,
Weren't these two
the planning
lots?
board will never give you an A&R in this, right? They're gonna say, you got a 0 square foot lots here, you don't have any square footage. We have no rights, first of all, you don't have a right to a variance, because I don't think you have a hardship, and number two, I don't think you have any I don't see where we can give you a variance, or even consider a variance. You have no square footage. You'd have to vary it to 100%.
Well, you would.
I'm not seeing that.
If you were to bring a vacant lot in a flood zone, I would need say there was no merger issue, I'd have to come before this board with a variance for a 100%
And
lot
I am
coverage.
very concerned about that first person that comes to this board, because I've said to David, when I saw this decision coming down the pike, I said, oh my God, how many lots in town are like that? I think the answer was 5 or 6 or 7. That person someday is gonna come in front of this board, and I don't know what the heck we're gonna do.
We got over 30 of them.
Oh, so there's the answer. We did the research, I'm like, oh my God. It's been in my family for 100 years, I've been paying taxes on you, now you tell me it's worthless.
Right.
But that's just, we'll have to deal with it probably someday. But we're dealing with yours right now, which is, as a chairman, I'm not buying it. I've read it extensively, I don't buy your case law, I don't buy your theory, I don't buy your notice, I don't buy any of it, so.
Does the county fund
That's
this
pretty
as
clear.
one lot or 2 lots? I'm confused on what. This is-
Well, I think we're all confused because it is one lot. It's a 12,500 square foot lot.
Then why is there a
So-
map here that shows 2 lots, 6,500?
Because both,
That's an
same
old-
owner owns them, which means they
Condos,
merged.
they merge.
Under 48, section 6 grandfathering, you own 2 subpar lots, they're below zoning, they're not up to par, and you own them in the same name, they merge. So even though they don't meet today's zoning.
But they were up to par. They were.
Yeah, a year or two ago, they're not
They were
today.
owned by
Just
two
because
different
they didn't
people.
do anything with it in that time period, develop on that lot, it became merged?
They were
They
owned-
could have developed, they could have built a house there
They were owned
5
by
years
two.
ago.
They're gonna build a house there a year before in November of 2023, he could have got a building permit for that lot.
I would have had a problem 2 years ago, because splitting that lot makes the house more non-conforming.
It wouldn't have mattered, they weren't merged. They weren't merged. So,
We're dealing with semantics, we gotta deal with today.
gotta
I
go by
understand, we gotta deal with today. What's today? We know what today is, the lot has no square footage.
and
That's nothing.
just to Scott's point, these lots, there were 2 lots that were lawfully created on a land court plan that is registered with the Barnstable County Land Court Registry of Deeds,
Yeah.
back in the 50s. 2 separate lots. The problem that has happened is that in that time, they had 6,000 square feet and 6,500 square feet. Pompanesett Overlay District, 6,000 square feet, 60. So in 1999, 2000, 2001, buildable, irrespective of common ownership. Waiting place decision comes out, says Well, if you're in a flood zone, now you have 0 square feet. So even though my client's lots physically have the requisite lot area, from a zoning perspective, they no longer do because of the waiting place decision.
Well, it goes a little deeper than that. Correct me if I'm wrong, your client bought the other property so that it's for nitrogen, correct? For bedroom count,
You need
at that point?
You need 10,000 square feet per bedroom, don't you?
No, I'm not aware of that. But but correct me if I'm wrong, your client purchased this other lot. His reason for purchasing that was to add a bedroom onto his home at that time.
I can't answer. I mean, he's here, he could explain
Well,
that.
that's, I've read some emails and that's what it said.
Right.
So why don't I ask you a different question? If you could give your name and.
Yeah, Brian Kelleher, I'm the owner of 37 Nick Trail.
Did you send an email to the owner stating that you wanted to purchase the property to add another bedroom to your house?
Absolutely not. So the the house was built 50 years ago in 1973. I bought the home in 2000, so I'm the second owner of the property. There were 2 lots when I bought it, 6,500 square foot lot and a 6,000 square foot lot. My plan was always, I'm getting near retirement age now, my plan was always to keep my cottage, if you will, on 37 Nick Trail and build a home on the second lot, which was a legal lot, 6,000 square feet at the time. So that was the game plan. Absent, but for the waiting place decision, I think I would have a pretty strong application.
Do you pay 2 different tax?
Yes.
Do you pay tax on that?
Initially, I had 2 tax bills. For some reason, I ended up getting 1 tax bill, but I can tell you.
Because the lots are combined, that's why.
Well, I don't know who, I never combined them. I didn't do anything. I didn't combine the lots. I didn't buy the lot for an extra bedroom.
So let me ask you this question then.
Can I answer a question that was
Certainly.
earlier, though? There was a letter out there that was read into the record that wasn't clear in terms of what the letter really said. I went to update the house because nothing had happened to it since 1973. It was owned by an older couple, and I bought it in 2000. I had 3 young kids at the time, and it needed a little bit of work. So we went in and asked to convert the single-car garage that was there into a family room. And at the time, the board was really concerned that we were going to make another bedroom, which I had no intent in doing. So they asked me to get a letter from the Board of Health saying that the other lot wasn't a lot, but let's continue the sentence, without credit land. So I asked the board, it didn't make any sense to me. I asked the Board of Health to issue me a letter, which they did, and I have a copy of it here tonight, that says it's not a buildable lot without credit land. And I sent that to the building inspector, and they approved my renovation project back in 2008. And what we did in 2008 is we actually reduced the size of the house because the way it laid out, it didn't work. We converted the garage into a family room and knocked down a room in the back of the house. So in terms of the non-conformance, we actually made it more conforming, if you will, if you can look at it that way, because we knocked down, I think, 258 square feet in the back.
So there's no correspondence between you and the previous lot owner in reference to why you were purchasing, et cetera?
They owned both lots. I bought both lots. When I bought the house, it was a 3-bedroom house. It is still a 3-bedroom house. It's 258 feet smaller when I bought it because I reduced it. Now I'm 68. I'm thinking of retirement, thinking of estate planning. I want to keep my cottage, quite frankly, and build a small house, a Papaneset-size house, the old Papaneset, as I kind of think of it, because I've been there forever, on a lot. And I come to Chris, and Chris goes, and Cape and Islands Engineering goes, guess what? Bad timing, Brian. Waiting place happened. I had no idea of it. Not only do you not have a lot, you don't even have any friggin' land anymore, right? Buildable land. So that's where I find myself and why I came to the board tonight. But I just want to make clear,
Does that categorize as a hardship?
I think so.
Yeah, what we don't have in the motion, just to be clear, and should be there, the words "or financial hardship."
I understand, but it has to be financial hardship and not in one's life. It has to be financial hardship in reference to the lot itself. You understand, it's a little different than, I need money, so this, if I don't get this lot, it's a different theory financially wise, because it's a different argument.
It's a little bit up for interpretation.
Well, the
Oh, there's no question.
The idea that I had a lot, say a year ago, whatever you want to say, in Papaneset, conforms with everything with credit land to build a reasonable size house on, within 2 blocks of the beach, and now I have nothing that I was counting, and I paid taxes, whether you want to call it the right taxes or not, for 20-something years with the intent to do that, and now I have nothing. If that's not a financial hardship, maybe it isn't from a zoning perspective, but from a reasonable person thinking about it, if that's not a financial hardship, I
So
don't know
even
what
if
is.
you qualify for that, I'm saying that for this board to give the ability to bifurcate that lot and make 2 lots out of it, I don't think it has a right to do it. I don't think this board has the ability
You
to
were
do it.
paying taxes, 2 separate tax bills. You paid X amount for the house and X amount for the land.
Right.
When they combined, when they sent you 1 tax bill, did they combine that, or did
I
that?
honestly don't know. I never asked for them to combine anything.
But I meant,
All-
did they combine the total? Are you paying taxes on that lot?
All I
like
know
it's
is I paid a
billable
ton
lot?
of taxes for 20-something years. Whatever bill they sent me, I paid. I never asked anybody to
curious if
combine
they-
my
they're still
tax
charging them
bills.
for the lot as a
I
billable
never
lot.
merged the lots. I never did. All I did was buy 2 lots that I thought were legal, and as Chris mentioned, absent 6 months, a year ago, I find out with no notice, and Chris told me, he goes, hey, look, ignorance is a defense, so I get it. It's not a defense. I had no way of knowing. If I had known and there was a grandfathering, I would have come in and filed the plan. And you know, the other thing it's a factor, and to me anyways, all around me, people are knocking down, and you guys deal with it all the time, the raise and rebuild. So all around me, people are knocking down small cottages and building not just Papaneset-styled houses.
No, they're 2,700 square feet. I'm well aware of it.
And it used to be just inside Shore Drive, and now it's across the street where I am. And one by one, they're getting picked off. Now, I don't have the right to do that. You know why? Because I decided not to build on my other lot way back when. I kept it, it was a neighborhood backyard for my kids. Now my kids are gone. So because of the flukiness of the code, I can't raise and rebuild because I don't have anything on that lot. And now it doesn't have any buildable area. So if that's not a hardship, it may not be by your codes, but believe me, if you were sitting in my shoes, you would think it was a hardship.
Is there a shed on the lot?
Is there a what? There is a shed.
Is that considered a structure?
Doesn't, I mean.
I mean, if it's a structure on the lot, is it, it's not, okay, I'm just thinking,
Well, let me go
On the other side, right?
yeah.
let me go, David, have you spoken your piece, or you want to say something else?
So there is a structure over there.
This is one
So they
single
combine
lot.
the lot.
I think it does think it's gonna make a difference.
It's deeded on
Gentlemen, we,
17,
zoning board,
Ken, if you want, I don't think it's gonna make a difference.
say again?
I just, I'm of the opinion it's one lot.
I understand. Anyone in the audience? Okay, back to the board then. What do you want to do? In my opinion, it doesn't meet the guidelines for a variance, and a variance shouldn't be
I
issued.
agree that with the new waiting place rule, it doesn't meet, but do we have any, do we have anything is it, I'm not sure how we can legally.
You got a judge sitting out there that says, this is the new way you're going to do it, gentlemen. I understand where he's from, but we've got a judge sitting out there that says, this is what you're going to do from now on.
But
This is the way you're going to oversee this bylaw from now on.
But the judge doesn't, the judge's decision has no bearing on whether you decide to grant a variance or not. You could
Yeah, but, so let's just say that you have a hardship. I understand, I'll buy into that for the time being. So tell me, now a judge is saying at this point in time that this lot has no square footage to lot coverage, 0.
Right.
And so we have the town bylaw, the zoning bylaw that says you need a minimum of X amount of square feet. We're gonna find that you don't need any square feet on these 2 lots. And we're gonna give you 2 lots, not 1. We're gonna give you double what you've got right now based on the theory of what? Because the town says you don't have any square footage. You have none. I don't think we have a right to do that.
So if it's a merged lot, could he
He
I
could
mean,
build,
could he tear this house down and build one house, larger house on this property?
I would assume so.
Much
That
larger
would be his
house?
only, that
Could
would
he
be
do
up to
that?
David.
With an ADU, sure.
So here's the
I
math.
think he has some options, it's just, this isn't one of them.
ADU's an
still
option,
put an
yeah.
ADU.
Here's the math, right? And so let's say I can build, I can raise and rebuild. I get a 12,500 square foot lot. I can build a big massive house there, right?
Well, that's subject to this board's approval.
No, I get it, but I have to meet all the guidelines. But, you know, there's guidelines. I get it. I hire Cape and Islands Engineering and Chris, and we do the great plan, and we meet all the guidelines. We come in. You'd have to have a good reason to deny me. But let's just say that I do that. And if you do the math and 25%, you know, I could maybe get a 3,000 square foot footprint there, right? And build a house like you built across the street, okay? I can do that. I'll tell you what I'd rather do. I'd rather keep my cottage in Papaneset and build a nice little house on the back lot, and you guys can put all types of restrictions on
Well,
me.
David just said you have a way of doing it. You could do an ADU, an accessory dwelling.
But I don't want to, well,
It would be like an in-law, probably like a smaller unit. It'd be a freestanding house.
yeah, but how big would it be?
What's that to be, 50%?
What's max, what is,
20% of the square footage of the
It would
house.
still, it wouldn't be by right, though. It'd still have to come.
We'd have to go through, I'm just saying
I
you
understand.
have the opportunity to go for something like that.
So
It would be
it's
decent
40% of your current square footage.
Of the lot?
of your house.
your house, how big is your house now?
Like 2,000 square feet or something.
So 800.
800 square feet.
The,
That's a small house. It is an option that's possible.
No, I get it. I get
It's
it.
got a better chance than,
Small house, but bigger than the shed.
Yeah, I can only, I understand where you're at, it's just a judge overseeing the remand of waiting place put this board in this town in this position.
unfortunately, I gotta follow the bar, because what I'm nervous about is if we do approve it, we're setting a precedent. And it might
Yeah,
not be
I'm
the
less
right
concerned about precedents, I'm just concerned about the law that sits on our shoulder that says, hey, 0 square footage, you're going from 0 to 2 lots, 2 houses. I
No, I
mean,
get it.
he's got 0 right now, he's got 1 house, he could come in and say, I have a pre-existing non-conforming situation, can I add on to it? We've historically allowed that, I don't know if we would here, but we have.
give us
Yeah, I
But
think he has
to
some.
bifurcate in a whole
It's a
different
factor,
lot,
but you have
I
to
don't
meet
think
all
we
the
have a
other
right to do
requirements,
it.
too.
meaning that.
Well, that's what I remember setting the precedent, because there's someone else that
he
can come
doesn't
in
even
next
think
week
you
and
have
go, hey, let him do it. So
Well,
let him do it.
we've heard that tonight more than once, yes.
No, okay. All right.
I mean, I just think it's really unfortunate that, my client is in a position where he had a buildable lot, and it's unlike, I brought a project before this board seeking the same sort of relief, asking, that there wasn't common ownership. But those lots did not meet the bylaw. These ones do.
Chris, I get it, and I understand where he's at.
We're stuck.
I'm just not a judge that says to this board, this is what you're gonna do. You know where we're at. I mean, I can't,
I wasn't aware.
I wish that we could go to town meeting and change that situation, right? We could do, I don't think we'd get a change at town meeting, maybe I'm wrong, because I would rather not include it.
Right.
But we have a judge that sits and says you will exclude one, wetland jurisdictional property.
I'll tell you that the town of Bourne just amended their bylaw to get rid of that language.
I would love to be able to do that. I'm just not gonna be the one that's gonna present it. I
understand.
don't know how much legs it's gonna get. I don't believe it get any legs.
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
there's any appetite in this town for that.
Exactly. So, we got the deck, we got the cards we were dealt, and it's the only cards we get to play.
understand.
We can't redial the deck.
If I had a small house, if you will, on the Uncle Henry lot, then I could do, on the current bylaw, assuming, I have to go through the regulations, a raise and replace and do 6,000 square feet, what, a 1,500 square foot footprint house, 2 stories, plus or minus, depending on all the engineering and all that. And now, because of waiting place, I have Butkus. Is that what we're saying, on that lot?
Well, I'm not so sure we're saying that. You'd have to talk to council as to
Well, no,
what he
it's
believes
not
your
a
rights
buildable
are.
lot, right?
I mean, I think your application that's in front of this board right now, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't have legs, simply because we don't have the ability to do it.
We don't have the authority.
For lack of a
About the
better word, it
financial
sucks.
there's no financial hardship aspect of it.
So let's
You
just
can't
say that he
rely
has
on
a,
that alone.
What's that?
You can't rely on that alone.
and let's say you could, right? Let's be devil's advocate. let's just say that he has a hardship, whatever it may be.
Right.
You go to the next step, which is, all right, my request is I have 0 lots, 0 land as far as allowable lot coverage because it's all within the floodplain, right? So I want to build 2 houses. I have one now, it's pre-existing non-conforming, but I want to build a total new one on the, you know, on the same property.
Right.
You can't do it. I don't know how we can do that.
No.
Under waiting place, there's just no way.
I think what we have to do in the motion, though, is to mention the issue of financial hardship so that Brian, you know, as far as you're concerned, it's an issue. It may not be an issue as far as the zoning bylaws, but to just show that it was considered and either voted up or voted down.
I'm sorry,
No,
Charlie.
there's nothing in the motion that's before the board that says anything about financial hardship.
No, I'm just thinking, in the future, this board should make a decision what the hardship is before we even consider a variance.
Okay.
And that's why at the point in the beginning, the applicant stated what is hardship. I think it's a burden upon the chair to minimally say, what is your hardship?
Yeah.
And then at that point, if they prove a hardship, we go to the next step, which is we hear it, right? We listen to that request.
I don't think we typically list a hardship.
No, we
in the
haven't,
motion.
but in your new application, it's going to be listed, because it should be. What is your hardship?
If it's top of
In
mind,
this case,
it's
let's just say that this board bought into the financial hardship. The next step is all right, now listen to my variance request. My variance request is, I've got 0 lot ability, I have 0 lot coverage, it's 100% lot coverage at this point in time, and I want to actually add a new structure. I can't get there from here. That's my point.
Is this different, though, because there were 2 separate conforming lots versus someone trying to, you know what I mean? These were 2 lots until just very recently ago.
Well,
now became not 2 lots anymore.
Well, it's different in only the effect that this board understands and feels for you. And I do too.
Has what?
Understands where you've been, where you're at, and says, that sucks.
Yeah.
I get it, and I really mean that from my heart. It sucks.
Right.
But I got a judge sitting there saying, this is the way you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to say, no, I'm not. He has more power than I have. And I get it, and I'm sure everybody in this board sits there and says, it sucks. You know?
Is this a result of a change from a town meeting?
No, this is just a result of a decision made in one of our remands that says, if you read the bylaw clearly, it excludes, and you haven't been excluded, land subject to, you know, conservation jurisdiction.
So that's
Someone
why I
that came
said,
back to us.
And I get it, it's not his fault, it's not our fault.
no, I know, I'm not saying it is
It's
your
no
fault.
one's fault,
But that's
it's
why we're
just,
here
a
tonight
judge
to-
way up there says, you will do it this way.
We're here to, you know, correct what I think is a real hardship.
So here,
I can't.
I don't know if this is a hardship. This is Papaneset. Okay, the blue stuff is wetlands.
Totally understood.
This is my
Oh,
house
I
right.
get it,
This is
I
my
get it.
house right there.
And that's exactly
And if I had
what
a little-
waiting
if I had a-
place
if I
the
had a
judge
small
said.
house on that back lot, I could raise and replace it and build a 3,000 square foot house there.
Yep.
And now I can't do anything because I'm in the wetlands. But all these houses that, because I have little cottages on them, one by one are being knocked down.
Yep.
Big houses are going up.
I can't agree with you more.
Well, I think what I would,
They can raise and replace.
I would sit
because
down
of
with
the
counsel
Because
and
it's
ask him what my rights are and what this board has done in the past. You may have some alternatives, I don't know. But I can tell you, Chris would probably know, he's been in front of this board numerous times. But I can tell you, your request right now, I don't know how we get there from here.
I think the only 2 things I can think of is do an ADU, which would be a small house on that.
You know, my only option is to build
Or raise and replace a
build a-
Sorry, John, just to build a massive house that'll have 50% more footprint. And I didn't want to bring it up because it's hard to.
But I don't know if this board would approve that, sir.
Why not? It's going to meet all the codes, Ron.
No, it doesn't. In order to do a raise and replace, you're gonna come back to us. You have to give certain criteria to us. So it isn't,
20%
Yeah.
lot coverage.
What?
Yeah, setbacks, 20% lot coverage.
Yeah, so-
25, well,
But
Well,
say,
here's your-
say I meet all those.
20.
well, if you meet all those, then at that point in time, you still have to come to us and presumably.
No, I understand that. Yeah, like every
But
other.
I think you have to ask your attorney what your options are. They could be one.
Why
I don't
would
know.
this be any different than all the other raise and
Oh,
replaces?
no, well, I'm not, I'm only
He's
saying.
not arguing with you.
He's not, yeah, I'm just saying, sit down with Chris and see what your options are.
No, I understand
It's
that.
just, I don't believe one of your options is a bifurcation of the lots into 2 lots and building 2 structures. I don't think you're there.
Gotcha.
I don't think we have the right to do that. I don't think we have the right to vary that for the existing zoning. We have a right to do that.
It's just interesting that, let's just say, at the end of the day, I come back with a much bigger house under raise and replace, and let's say it gets through your board. It's going to have a lot more impacts than what I'm asking.
Totally
here tonight.
understand, but a judge did not say you can't do raise and replace. He said-
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. Now,
Our
yeah, I
job
get
to
it.
follow what the bylaw says and what judge.
Doesn't mean it's always right, this is just one of those situations, like Ron said, and I said, it sucks.
No, I appreciate, I've learned tonight, I appreciate your
I understand
position.
where you're coming from. Been there, done that. It sucks. But we are a board that's supposed to follow rules and regulations, and we're doing just that right now. So how would we like to proceed? You can make a motion, and we can vote on that motion up or down.
You want to withdraw?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
why?
if you want to withdraw, it's up to you.
I mean, why?
Without prejudice, probably. Without prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll request the board to withdraw the application without prejudice.
All right, so Charlie, would you make a motion, please?
Okay, relative to 37 Nick Trail at the request of the petitioner and his attorney, the motion will be withdrawn without prejudice.
My God.
Second.
Okay.
Could you read, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying.
Second.
Oh, we had a
No, no, but he,
We haven't closed public
We have to
comment.
close.
You're gonna have to do that.
so make a motion, close public comment, and then I need to hear that motion again, please?
Yeah.
I was thinking of something else. I apologize.
I think we have the motion for public comments.
Yes, please make a motion to close public comment, please.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes,
Second.
all in favor?
And-
And could you read the motion again, please?
Okay, and the last is relative to 37 Nick Trail, at the request of the petitioner and his attorney. Their request is withdrawn without prejudice.
Okay, so one second, we really didn't have to do the prior, which is close the public hearing because he's withdrawn without prejudice.
yeah.
But it's fine. So I'd like to have a second on that motion that Charlie just made, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the, indulging us. Thank you.
I hope you
Fine.
understand, it is what it is. All right. So, George, would you like to read the next continued public hearing, 29 Echo, please?
Do you want to bring Jonathan back in?
Bill, does she need
John,
the,
I don't know.
there he is, he's right behind. Does she need these plans back?
29 Echo Road and 41 Echo Road. Petitioner 3M Ventures Incorporated, DBA, Triple M Management Company, LLC, requests a bonification under sections 174-24, parentheses C, parentheses 9, parentheses C, parentheses E, of the zoning bylaws and condition number 5 of the special permit decisions, SP 215-33, SP 2019-36, SP 2020-28, MOD-2023-08, to extend the date for completion of construction from its previously extended date of December 31st, 2023, to May 31st, 2024, on property located in an I-1, I-1, and light industrial overlay zoning districts, map 19, parcels 3 to 8 and 3 to 9, Mashpee, Mass. Owner of record, Triple M Management Corporation, LLC, continued from December 13, 2023, hearings at the request of the attorney.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, for the record, Attorney Christopher Corain. This was continued last time because we're waiting. David wasn't at the meeting and the chief wasn't available. So I know this board wanted comments from both the building department and the fire department. I don't want to belabor this request. I had a good meeting with David this afternoon. We have provided a schedule to this board and to David that I think is 99% accurate, except for the issue of the wings. And I am deferring to David's, however he wants, I know how he wants to handle the wings, and if the board is to approve the project, or approve the modification with a condition that the wings are taken down in accordance with David's recommendation or his requirement, that is fine with us. And I don't want to speak for David, but the way that would work is we're getting all the work done before the end of May. During that time, when we are close to getting our occupancy permit, Dave will require us, before he issues an occupancy permit, to request a demolition permit of those wings. After that demolition permit is requested, if everything else is satisfactory, he will issue the occupancy permit. And within 7 days of that occupancy permit, the wings need to come down. And that's where we are.
So I need to speak up because this is very important to me. The last time we heard this, I was very, very pointed and abrupt in my following statement. Please don't come back unless David, zoning enforcement officer, the fire chief, and now DPW, because she's chimed in, says this unconditionally in a letter to this board. If you don't have that, okay, if you don't have that, I'm at the end of my rope. And I'm close to saying, matter of fact, I'm probably there to say, you're gonna have to deal with the zoning enforcement officer with no special permit, because we won't extend from here on out. So I would like to hear from David and the fire chief, because I'm done with this. It's a very simple procedure. To me, it is taking care with two temporary structures and sprinkling them, or whatever it may be, to make these two people, gentlemen, happy, and now the DPW director in reference to a corner rounding. It's not happening, I don't think, unless if it has, that's great. I'm so happy that that's taken place. But if it hasn't happened, we got a big problem.
Based on, again, I don't want to speak for today. I believe that it has happened.
Great. So why don't I hear from David and then our fire chief?
Okay, so they have moved the work. They understood a few things about this. They have moved work around, but the way that they proposed this January 19th amendment to the work schedule won't fit the conditions of Condition 6 and Condition 7. Condition 6 means that when a certificate of occupancy is issued, the temporary structure's occupancy cease. But they want to keep, they can't use the temporary use, they can't occupy those buildings at all. So, in other words, the way they have this written is not going to work. And I did have a meeting with Chris about it today and pointed that out, that those have to be, the buildings are going to be sprinkled before an occupancy. They're going to have they have to have a permit in hand before I'm going to issue a permit, a certificate of occupancy, and we're going to go and inspect that those wings are vacated, and then they have 7 days after that certificate of occupancy to remove the buildings entirely.
So Chief, would you speak also, please, in reference to what your opinion is here and where you stand?
All right, I wasn't a party to the discussion today, and I defer to the building commissioner in regards to this. And I'm glad he brought up conditions 6 and 7, because that was one of my primary concerns here. The challenge I have here, and hasn't been spoken yet, is the Cannabis Control Commission. They won't come and do their inspection unless they get C of O. And without the C of O, so with the C of O, the CCC won't do the inspection, and so they won't allow them to move the offices, which are currently housed in the two wings, into the new building until they do their inspection. The problem with the Cannabis Control Commission, which I've already dealt with, the one over at 800 Falmouth Road, is their schedule, and I don't know if you're all aware of it, they give them a 30-day notice for the inspection. When they do the inspection, they say nothing at the inspection. They give them 30 days to come with a written reply, and if I'm wrong, let me know. So that's now 60 days. And they still can't move their office over until they get the Cannabis Control Commission's approval. So we sit in a gray area here. And it's hard because they're under the purview of the CCC. They can't do anything about it. And that's where this gets kind of cloudy for me. I like the idea that they're going to pull the demo permit, but the problem is I can't sign off on the demo permit until all the utilities and everything are disconnected from that building. So again, how do we issue a demo permit if it doesn't satisfy the needs of the fire department? Because there's a lot of moving parts here, and they have to happen quickly. I have empathy for the applicant here. I have empathy for the whole process because I got to see how it works with 800 Falmouth Road. I wasn't really involved with how that all went down when they built Triple M because it was a standalone project and was medical marijuana, so it was a different animal, and it's not this recreational. So they're in a tough position. I will say this, they did comply, they did get me a full set of sprinkler plans for both the main building, the current building and the new addition that meets the code requirements for NFPA 13 and 527 CMR. The challenge is Mass General Law, which supersedes any regulation, 14826G says there shall be fully sprinkled buildings. So because those wings are attached, technically they're gonna have to be sprinkled if we enforce it to that extent. And don't give a variance to that, or the fire department and the building department say, listen, we can come up with some agreement like we have been doing right now. The challenge is if we were to mandate they put sprinklers in those temporary buildings, they have to re-engineer the whole sprinkler system for something that's going to be torn down 30 days later, which I don't want to do, and I think that's a hardship on the applicant. I think the problem is here, we need to be a little bit flexible to say, I like the idea of pulling the permit, the demolition permit. I can be happy with the understanding we're going to have these things disconnected prior to the, and satisfy the DPW and the building department, have those disconnects done prior to the actual demolition. I think we need to be a little bit flexible because the CCC is an unknown right now. And they have no way to control them. They have no way to mandate the inspections. And if you've seen in the news lately, 2 members of the commission have suddenly resigned, so they don't even have full staff. So, we have to be a little bit flexible, and I have a little empathy. And I just got off the phone with my fire inspector, and he's of the. It's easy to say no. The hard part is to be the politic here and get a nice, happy middle ground that satisfies me, satisfies public safety, and satisfies anything going on. But
refresh my memory. But the temporary structures, I don't think they have any plumbing in them. It's just electrical.
They have electrical. I don't know. They do have they must have some plumbing because the employee break room's in there. So I would have to go to them. The problem is with the square footage, technically.
There's probably a bathroom in there, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there is.
I know there's heating and cooling. I know there's a break room.
Is that an important point here?
Well, for the shut-offs, if we can just shut off the electrical.
If we shut off the electrical, that's one thing we have to shut off. We don't, because it's a new structure, and I'm not worried about all the other things as far as asbestos or any other, fossil fuel devices or anything there. They have electric heat going on, so it would be rather quick to do that. I just think that I like the idea of the 7 days. That complies with the original special permit that it has to be demolished within 7 days of the CO. But I would caution that it could get held up because of the CCC.
And you can't be given a CO and then a later date give another CO.
No, we're not asking.
Originally was like
the challenge is it's going to be hard for them because it does say under the special permit that once they get a CO, they have to vacate. They don't have a permit to occupy those 2 wings. Right. The challenge is where's that staff going to go? Where are those offices going to go? Because currently the money room is in those additions, the wings. They won't be able to occupy the main building, the new building, until the CCC says okay.
Well, it seems to me no good deed goes unpunished, right? Correct. So as chair, I've learned from this one. So where do we go from here in order to get this in compliance as fast as we can get it in compliance?
Yeah, I agree with what the building commissioner said. He's at the top of the pyramid. He rules this whole thing as far as the inspection portion between he and I. But I think he and I need to be a little bit flexible when we get there if something arises without having to run back to the board here.
Well, I'm sorry.
Will this proposal to extend it, will that solve the problem, Dave?
What proposal to
The
extend?
proposal to extend ends in May, am I right?
It ends at the end of May, so with the caveat that per my understanding of my conversation with Dave was that demolition permit has to be pulled first, then he'll give the occupancy permit.
7 days.
And then 7 days has to come down. I mean, as the chief says, there's this unfortunate tension between the Cannabis Control Commission and David. They won't inspect it until he gives his occupancy permit. And then we have and the chief's right. We have to move out of the wings, and we have nowhere to go.
But I'm trying, so you came to this board in like 3 or 4 months ago, asking for like a 6-month extension, which we started to issue.
Right.
Then David spoke up, and Jack, you spoke up. I negated that extension before we voted on it, and went to like a 30-day extension. We've done 2 of those since. Now we're gonna go back to that long period
No,
extension?
I think we stick with this agreement, but what I'm saying is, we need to be a little bit flexible, because the CCC may not be.
So how do you envision that flexibility
Can they
happening?
put an office, like a temporary office trailer, go into the office
think
trailer?
so.
No.
I'm not
And
sure.
then they can vacate the.
So is there a suggestion?
So,
How do you envision, wait, how do you envision
House
that
fire.
flexibility? What do you see, you two gentlemen, because as far as I'm concerned, you're controlling this. This board is listening to you, you're the you know, the specialist. Tell us what you want this board to do to make this thing go away and make it get back on track.
Yeah, is there a fix?
Can I
Tell us what it
ask
is.
an additional question? Sure. Do you think May 31st is a reasonable date
yeah, I'm thinking
for
June
extension?
30th.
I do.
But here's my concern.
The sprinkler system is, in essence, is going to be easy to install, because the main sprinkler system in the new building is done. The other building has open attic, and it's drop down, no basement. It's actually going to be easy to install the sprinkler system in that building. So that's something that can be done really quickly. The inspectional process is very simple. It's a 1-day, actually 2-day process, because they have to do the pressure test, but it can be done. I think it's possible.
Is this town right now in peril in reference to health and safety, right now, today?
No, I think this town does a great job.
No, I'm saying in reference to this.
This project.
In this project, if you have a fire there today, is it gonna be like, we got a problem?
Well, the sprinkler system's not active yet.
Yes, so I'm just saying, it's, you know, as you do very well, and he does very well, protect the community. I don't know if I wanna go all the way out to May, unless we have to, and that's your recommendation.
No, May was the agreement. I think.
Yeah.
May's the agreement, May's the cutoff. But we'd have to be able to hand it off. I don't care what the Cannabis Commission says, I don't want them living in the wings while we wait for them.
What do you want this, what do you see
What's
this
the
board,
answer?
what do you want?
I think they have to scrunch back into the office, that's what I said to.
There you go. He's recommending to go back into the office, take the wings off, right?
Yeah, take the wings off.
Take the
You gotta
wings off.
straighten-
That's
you
what
gotta
he's saying. He's
operate
the
out
zoning
of that.
enforcement
No, I
officer.
know, that's
But
exactly.
now.
No, not now.
Come May.
When are you saying now? I mean, when are you saying to take the wings off?
When I give a certificate of occupancy, those wings need to be vacated. They're gonna have to scrunch
And
right
come down
back into
within 7
where they
days.
were.
Yeah, not today, or not tomorrow, but.
But that's between
I'm just
you
concerned-
and the
The day
owner,
before
right?
he issues the CO. they
That's
gotta move
between
out.
you and the owner.
Right.
You know,
I'm concerned about
You-
opening.
No, it's on the special permit. It's on,
Yeah, it
that's
says it right on the
condition
special
6.
permit, condition-
It's condition 6 and
Six is
7.
having an open
In
date.
order to conform to
Well, they
these.
get till May 31st.
Right, it's not, we've asked for an extension until May 31st, okay? So.
So if something were to happen between now and May 31st, a fire or something in there, right? Is the town gonna be in a bad situation?
No,
It's
no.
been like this, it's the same situation.
I know, and I wanna stop the
Yeah.
bleeding like now,
I know,
today.
I know.
Like,
Well, that's
right
why-
now.
that's why
I
we
think-
I mean,
wanna
we've
end
gone
this.
3-4 extensions already.
Yeah, but based on the construction of the building and how they're installing sprinkler system is typical of how we do most of the commercial structures anyway. The building gets built, the sprinkler system gets installed,
But no one's in it yet.
no one's in it yet. And there's no one in the new building yet as it is.
Yeah, but they're in a temporary building that isn't
Temporary
sprinkled.
building, which technically wasn't required to be sprinkled. And that's why those 2 buildings are not connected. They're separated by a wall right now. But once they open that up, then the current existing building needs to be completely sprinkled, which it will be once the system is installed in May.
Mr. Chair?
So how do you recommend, there's a request in front of us to extend until May. What do you want us to do as a board? Tell me.
So, if I may.
No, I want to hear from them,
Let me
please.
see that. So we
After
have
that,
to-
I have no problem before we make a decision for
We
you to
have
speak.
to move, apply for demolition permit for wings per special permit 220, it's actually 219, 2019-28, section 7. Prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy, and then demolish, and we're gonna have to move, demolish the wings issuance upon issuance of demolition permit to 7 days after certificate of occupancy. That,
Yeah. And this is
and
to
then we're done
to
Do
be
you have-
accomplished by
Marianne?
what date?
by May May 31st, and then 7 days after May 31st, everything's removed and we do the final.
Mary Ann, can you put that in a written?
Yep.
Would seem to me when someone makes a motion, if you can speak your piece, he will ask you to read into the motion what you need read into the motion, what you just said. Does that make sense, Charlie?
It does, but.
Unless you can read through what he just said.
I think if we look between the chief and David, they know what needs to be done. They know
Exactly.
the problems you're gonna face in doing
Exactly.
it. So as long as we have an end date, and the end date is May 31st.
But there's things that have to happen before then.
No, but I
Why
think
don't
we
we leave it to them?
condition it on
Yeah,
them
and-
accomplishing what the building commissioner and the fire chief need to have done before that
Leave it to
date.
you
I
folks.
agree with Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let these two guys handle it.
handle it.
All right, wait a second. So there's a request in front of this board to extend until May 31st, correct?
Right.
Is this board gonna make a motion then and just simply approve that request?
Yes.
And
I
condition
think
it
that's a
on,
bad decision, because there's things that have to happen between now and then.
condition it on
Condition
them
it
meeting
to-
all the requirements of the building commissioner and the fire chief.
This is huge, guys. This is the fourth extension. I came here today, I thought about it, I was gonna pull their permit.
Did you hear
Yeah, I
what the
did.
chief said?
I did hear it, but I'm telling you, as chairman of this board, I was gonna ask for a vote. I was gonna pull their permit tonight. That's what I was gonna do.
I would
No, I was
have
going
voted,
to.
I would have voted no.
Well, I can tell you right now, we're in a bad place here. This is like the third extension.
Ron,
Yeah, but they're
Take it
between a
easy.
rock and a hard place. They're trying to get it done.
A
We're
rock and
getting
a.
close.
We're getting close.
Yeah, and
you gotta be
Two
flexible
experts
here.
handle it.
Fine.
They're saying
We're
it can
getting
get
close,
done.
but the proposal doesn't work. They have to tweak this proposal. We tweaked it, just how I said.
So the guidance we gave them at the last meeting was make sure you come back here today with an agreement from those two people, 100% set.
And they're screwed by the CCC.
Yeah, but the
No, but we have an
commission.
No, they
agreement.
didn't.
Yeah, No, we have an agreement. I'm in a compliance agreement. All I wanted to bring up was this issue with the CCC. I wanted you to be aware of it. We're aware of it. We're already dealing with it at another site, and it is a challenge. I mean, I just wanted to let you know that. I think we can make this work. There are a lot of pre-inspections I'm going to be doing prior to the May 31st deadline to ensure that they're in compliance with all the fire code requirements. I'm sure Dave will be there with the building stuff.
Could I make maybe a dumb suggestion that sometime between now and May 31st, pick an appropriate time, that the chief and David, come back and report on the progress where things stand as of a particular date.
Good.
So that we don't,
Informational.
yeah.
So what is your motion gonna state?
Well, the motion is that that it's extended until May 31st, 2024, and at a point,
How about April 24th, David will report on it.
at a point on or before April 24th, 2024, the building commissioner and the chief of the fire department report to the zoning board of appeals the status.
Well, could we do it
Yep,
May?
that works for
Could we
me.
do it May 22nd?
Is that your next meeting?
There's a May 22nd meeting.
Yeah, we can report by then.
Okay, yeah.
So a month before, we will have, if we don't have a good idea then maybe that's the time that the permit be revoked. I don't know.
Is it?
It's not a month before, he's saying
Yeah,
May
April
22nd, which is a
24th
week
is
before, it's
a month
a week before.
That's right.
All right, April 20, yeah, all
What
right,
is
April 24th, all right.
April 24th is the month before.
Yep. It's kind of a drop dead
April
date.
24th,
Was that a
Charlie.
motion?
I'm just,
I'm gonna, it'll be a motion. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
All right.
they're done.
I know.
Okay, I'll make
If
a
it's fine with
motion.
you guys.
Yeah.
it's
All
fine
right,
with
Charlie,
me.
why don't you make a motion?
I'll make a motion relative to 2941 Echo Road. Petitioner 3M Ventures, Inc., DBA Triple M Management Company, LLC, requests a modification under 174-24C9CE of the zoning bylaws and condition number 5 of the special permit decisions, SP 2015-33, SP 2019-36, SP 2020-28, MOD 2023-08, to extend the date for completion of construction from its previously extended date of December 31st, 2023 to May 31st, 2024 on property located in the I-1 and Light Industry Overlay Zoning Districts, map 19, parcels 3-8, 3-9, Mashpee, Mass, owner of record, Triple M Management Company, LLC, with the following conditions. The board accepts the request for a modification of the special permit under 174-24C9CE of the zoning bylaws, and Condition 5 of the decisions, SP 2015-33, SP 2019-36, SP 2020-28, MOD 2023-08, to extend the date for completion of construction from its previously extended date of December 31st, 2023 to May 31st, 2024. On the condition that the building department and the fire department, through the chief and through the building commissioner, report to the board the status of the project on or before April 24th of 2024, for the board then to make a determination as to whether the permit will continue.
Does that sound good?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. So it carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes dated January 10th, 2024.
I'll second.
All those in
Bill
favor?
second. Aye.
All right. So, did you guys, ladies and gentlemen, look at the review? Did you review the approved revisions? Or did you review and approve the revisions for the ZBA application?
If Mary Ann's happy, I'm happy.
Me too.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so, I have a question. I included 2 or 3 amendments. Did you guys see those?
I agree to
I
those.
agree with it.
Okay. Yep. So you're all set? Yep. Okay.
I like it.
Make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Are we gonna,
That's
what
a
about
good
the
motion.
terms and processes of other committees?
Nice try.
So
Why don't we do that next time?
Okay, I agree,
Let's move that. It's 9:10.
yes.
that was,
Time to go.
I,
the what?
We'll have that discussion next time.
Sign them and weep.
did we adjourn?
Well, that question was, is it making more work on your part? You raised that, right? So I don't know, that's really gonna be your input.
The cannabis control,
All right, what are we doing?
they,
I thought we adjourned.
No, we
Did
didn't.
we adjourn?
All right, so motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
moved.
All those in favor?
Good night.
All right.